right, hello, welcome everyone to another episode of Knights of Last Call, all spells ranked. I am joined today by a extremely special guest, none other than self-confessed cynic himself, Mr. Vin.
Hello, chat. Hold on to your butts.
So if you'll remember, we had a tip goal a little while ago to get a patron to join me on this, and sure enough, who better than the Sorcerer Supreme himself, Vin? And Vin, that is your class of choice in Pathfinder 2. Is that not correct?
I mean, yeah, it's broken. Of course, it's my class of choice.
Yeah, it's. I would say, we've been playing. We're actually about to do our 20th level session this Friday. I played a cleric for like 15 levels straight. That was rough. I'm not gonna lie. Can they heal? Yes. That's okay.
And you weren't a war priest. You were.
No, I was a cloistered cleric with my very high spell DC. The only fun spell I cast the entire campaign was Inner Radiance Torrent, and I don't know what else to say.
Does that live up to the hype in the end?
Yeah. Oh, it does a lot of damage, and it's force. That's really important, and especially because in our particular campaign, we have the ability to sort of kind of go to different places, so we can kind of structure what foes we're going to take. So like we can basically say we want to go to a place where there's a lot of undead, and knowing that there's going to be more undead. Now we don't know what exactly undead are, but when you think of incorporeal creatures who might have a resistance and you need force weapons, so like we were able to sort of custom build our party and characters like with ghost touch runes and stuff like that you might not ordinarily take because we knew we were going to be facing those. So in that respect, 3-action heal plus Inner Radiance Torrent, I got a lot more mileage than probably most clerics get out of a campaign. So I would say, yeah, I had a better time than most clerics, and it was still not great. So for the last 5 levels, I switched over to a human fighter raised by gnomes with 2 flick maces. And
good man.
And I built him as a fear build. So not only does he has high charisma, so not only can he scare to death and battle cry, he's also obviously has greater frightening runes on his things, and then he's got the fearful brute feat. So he adds fear as the triple your fear value as a circumstance bonus to his damage. Combined with being huge from his various enlarged, because he's also, by the way, free archetype. He had the charisma. Why not? He's a sorcerer.
Fighter sorcerer, my favorite combo.
The only difference though is he is an occult sorcerer because I wanted to be able to cast. I wasn't as important to cast damaging spells because obviously my DC isn't going to be as high, but I wanted to be able to cast heroism and haste and slow, and so all those spells kind of meet in the middle on the occult tradition. So he's actually, we're using free archetype, of course, but he's actually a champion, dual weapon warrior, sorcerer, fighter.
Nice.
Busted through the gills, infinite attacks of opportunity and divine reactions, and it's just
level 20, right? You got to the end.
Yeah,
right.
Got to the end. But even without it, it didn't matter. Like, between the fighter gets the extra feat, and then you get the other feat. It's like you have so many things, it doesn't even matter. And then once they're tripped, just forget about it.
It's over.
Well, and with the greater fear rune, they're tripped and they're frightened too, all with no save. So now they're -4
after one attack.
After one attack, right? And by the way, I'm a sorcerer, so I could true strike that. And
of course you would.
And I'm
obviously
right. And I'm heroism 9th level heroism, so +3. And someone aids me, that's +4. So suddenly I'm at a fighter with a +7 to hit, rolling twice with fortune. If I crit, they're now prone and feared. Anyways, and of course I'm able to disrupt. Anyways, it's ridiculous.
So I was circling around to say the broken classes, the 3 broken classes, are fucking hilariously fun to play. That just. Sorcerer, fighter, and rogue.
And I think when we've never officially done a class tier list, but I think in conversations you and I have had, we have basically said that those are the 3 S tier classes, and cloistered cleric might be up there. It's a really good class. It's just the divine list itself is so weak, because getting 5 or 6 extra max level spell slots is not nothing. And they get the legendary and all that other jazz like everybody else, but
you wouldn't need them if the enemy was dead.
That is 100% true. And by the way, we're fighting ridiculous things, right? This is Aaron GMing, and we kind of really wanted to stress test Pathfinder 2. So we immediately go and fight a severe. There's like 140 XP encounters, and then every session ends with a 160 XP extreme fight. Right? So this is stress testing to the max. If you were playing this with like moderate severe encounters, like from a standard AP, and you were playing with like sorcerer, rogue, couple fighters, oh my god, I can't even imagine.
This game sucks. It's so easy.
It would be so easy.
All the opposites, like, this is amazing. We're killing everything. Like, I don't know which is darker.
Right. Well, and I know. Again, we only have like 20 spells to get through, so we'll have plenty of time here. But how often do we have Vin on here? You know, the thing that we discovered, which is kind of funny, is that at low level, I mean, the math is pretty much the same throughout the whole course of the game, right? Like everybody's hitting on 10s, the fighter's hitting on 8s, give or take. But when you're low level, you know, DC 20 to aid, you're going to fail half the time. If you hit it, you're getting a +1. Good luck critting. You know, heroism isn't even on the plate yet. Bless sucks, right? Your mobility is 20 feet movement, right? So flanking and stuff like that is a pain in the ass. You don't have things like battle cry, free action, demoralize at the start of a fight. By the time you get to level 15, everything's the same except a couple spells, heroism. I have 60-foot movement. They're
it's
obvious.
important to add that most of your stats will be 18 as well.
Yeah.
So you can definitely do some crazy shit.
Right. And you're like, but it's like, what I'm saying is it's just not an issue for me to quickly stack up between aid being much, much better of an option. It's basically not an option, but let's say sub 10. And it's basically like an auto option, you know, post 10. But between all that and the copious amounts of spell slots you have, suddenly you're at the point where you're like, I mean, my fighter with a flat-footed, frightened foe, with me getting a legendary aid and a +3 heroism, I mean, I'm hitting hard or extreme ACs from higher level foes on like a 1 or 2+. Like, what are we talking about here?
It's fun because like it's fun. It's one of those things that's like it depends, because when we've run community games, and we're at level 18 now, I think, or 17 or 18.
Right.
And we haven't had the situation where it's gotten close to a ruffle stomp in either way. Not that I've been in that for. And so, like, yes, we've had a case. Actually, in one of our games, the final boss was ruffle stomp because the party just kept rolling 20s, and that's fine.
Sure.
But the everything else, though, it feels like enemies also get ways to deal with that. I don't know how Smith runs his.
Yeah,
but there's.
I mean, there are definitely high level. I mean, like, for example, I mean, we went into the one fight and we knew that creature had power word kill, and I had a silence emanation cast on me, so to get past the auditory trait. Well, the soul arc can 2 action at will dispel magic, so it dispel magic the silent spell, and then use 1 action remaining to just power word kill me. It was level, and I was level 16 or lower, so I just auto died with no save at max hit points. So that's how I started one fight. So I mean, it's not like these things aren't being pushed to the max.
Yeah, good.
Right?
That's the thing. It's a curiosity, because I think 4v1 is always going to go bad unless there's just some nonsense.
Well,
some GM nonsense.
And that is 100% true, and I agree with you. Or it's going to be like, if you don't have a good first round and the creature gets lucky and picks one of you off, then it's done, right? Like, you're almost certainly not going to be able to move that. And you know, I see Needham is saying that Pathfinder 2 remove rocket tag. Yeah, sometimes it feels like rocket tag. Initiative can matter a lot. The power words are really, really powerful. Slow, true target, etc., etc. But like, I find that I don't think the game works well with a single high-level foe. Mathematically, it might look like it works, but I really think I think it works better when you have like one creature that's maybe like 2 or 3 levels higher, and then like 2 on level or -1 level foes, and that's your extreme fight.
Well, that's the thing. It'd be I think a high level foe works really well if the party doesn't optimize.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think that's most parties. Let's be honest.
Yes, and that's something also I have to take into consideration. This game has essentially been my life for 2 years. You know, I've run 5 or 6 games of it and been in it, and I talk about it on a daily basis. So yes, like I get that other people aren't necessarily going to be as hyper optimized as I am. So
Well, that's the thing, and not even the people, other parties. So my party is only now realizing that assurance, which just adds, let's take 10, which is my rules of assurance. It doesn't do any, it doesn't ignore penalties anymore in my game, but it just lets you take 10.
Got it.
That means in the first attack on every round, they only just realized that the monk can get his automatic attack to 40, his athletics, and so he can automatically not just succeed but critically succeed against a lot of enemies and it automatically disarm them, which is awesome. But
Sure.
I only just figured it out now at level 12, so it's just like, all right, so it depends on the party really when it comes to that kind of interplay. And I think for a basic ass party, the system as written works well, but the moment you start tinkering under the hood and realizing that there's some broken ass combos, then the GM's going to have to step up his game as well.
Right. And obviously, part of, I would never normally play a character like this, right? It was kind of just designed to be like, hey, everyone always talks about how stupid this weapon is. And it is very stupid. But it's not even the reach. It's just being a flail. Just hammers and flails are stupid, and it should be a save. It should be a save.
Anyway.
Spells. All right. So let me switch over here. Hopefully nothing breaks. All right. We look like we're good here. All right, great. So last time we were here, we did the first half of level 6. So we did, let's talk about some of the standouts before we kind of get into the meat of it. So we had Chain Lightning at S tier. And I basically
strongly earned.
Yeah, and I basically called it probably one of, if not the premier damage spell in the game.
Can I have a second to talk about Chain Lightning?
Yeah, you can have a minute.
All right. So in a community game, my sorcerer in a single round did over 1,200 damage with Chain Lightning in total. Just because of the way the enemies were laid out. Edril knew it was coming, but I didn't think he knew how many of them would critically fail to save. So that went south. It was like an army charging, and then we were like, "This is stupid. Like this spell kind of invalidates the concept of an army." But whatever. Okay, that's fun. And now as a second data point to that, so not only is Chain Lightning one of the only damaging spells I have. What's his face in my signature spells.
Yeah,
it's only the only ones I've picked.
And that being signature spell is strictly so that you could just heighten it for a higher level, right? Yeah. Just get more damage or get more slots out of it, because it doesn't get any. 100%. It just gets a D12.
If everything goes to shit, I can cast 20 Chain Lightnings.
Right.
Because I'm a sorcerer.
Yep.
And sorcerers are broken. And so on the opposite side of the spectrum, now in my home game, which I'm the DM of, we've got 2 casters who are both prepping Chain Lightnings all day, every day. I'm like, great. Okay, great. We're all on the same page.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, there's a couple of things about it that obviously stand out to me. The first is that, like Fireball, it has this absurd range that doesn't even make sense in the context of this game, given what we know about every other spell. And then the damage is just right there. I mean, it's very competitive. It competes with Cone of Cold, Fireball, which we know are the top tier spells of the game. But then, because of this infinite leaping, I mean, you could potentially hit dozens and dozens of targets. So certainly pretty much everybody in a fight. And without all the messiness of hitting your allies like you might get with a Cone of Cold, or it's very much just like a smart missile, right? You don't have to do anything.
And lightning's a good type. It doesn't have many people resisting it. And beyond that, the critical, the enemies don't get the success equals critical success stuff. So when it's used in the party, it's actually not too bad. But when it's used in the enemy, it can go.
Yeah. It can go south real bad. Nin says it's like Electric Arc plus. Thank you for subscribing, Mark Jones. Hey, everybody in the chat. Let me know if you have any questions for myself or Vin. I'm obviously not going to be able to watch the chat just as much because I'm going to be chatting with Vin. Galarian and Death says can't stay today, but have fun. Well, forgive me in advance, Derek. So I'm assuming I'm going to tear some spells apart, but. Yeah, Chain Lightning is S tier. Okay, so that was the one thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing, Sal Rollray says, should we make it S plus because of Vin's 1,200 damage round? I don't think it's S plus. I don't. No. Okay, so there are 3 things that I really wanted to. 4 things I wanted to get your thoughts on. So first was Chain Lightning at S. Second, this will be a quick conversation. We made it S++ tier for slow, heightened 6. I mean, it's already the world's most absurd spell. Okay, now you can just cast it on up to 10 targets.
Yeah, I mean, the only time slow has failed me is when the enemy is high fort. That's
Sure.
it.
Sure, exactly. Actually, we did find a spell that was it's like a will saved base slow. I can't remember the name of that spell. It's not quite as good as slow, but it does target the will save. I'm not sure.
Roaring Applause, or is it something else?
Maybe it's Roaring Applause. I don't know. I don't remember. If anybody remembers in the chat, let us know. All right. Third thing, Disintegrate, C tier, because it has to hit.
Okay.
And
all right, look,
they get to make a save.
I saw your math. I tried to do some research for the stream.
Right. I did I did pull Excel out.
I know. And so here's the deal. I agree that mathematically it belongs in C tier. I want to pull out the sleep card, and it probably belongs in F tier.
You think
fuck that spell?
You think it should be just F?
I mean, okay. Disintegrate used to be
of course
what you look forward to getting.
Yep.
It's false advertising. Having that name.
I mean, I will say, and I did give it a bump because I said, it does do very few things that Pathfinder 2 actually interact with or work against the environment. And this does disintegrate a cube essentially of matter. Like, you could use it. Like, there are so many instances in Pathfinder 2 where in Pathfinder 1 or in other versions of the D20 game, you might be able to use your spells creatively, but like, you could literally, use Disintegrate to like blow out the support beam of a bridge as the enemy caravan came across it, and you could topple them.
Well, that's the thing. So
you could also cast Chain Lightning and probably kill all of them too. But
yeah, from an 18th level sorcerer, Disintegrate's great because I don't use it for damage. I use it for countering hazards, and it's fantastic for them.
Got it.
No save.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's in fact kind of broken. What if you're just using it for that purpose? Or like you said, environmental stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to what Disintegrate's for, then it's just like, well, so I'm happy with C. But
okay, great. And then the last
salty when I first took it.
And so the last one, which got a lot of controversy from us as well. I think we got another subscriber. All right, thanks for subscribing, Harp Zone. Yes, by the way, it is Roaring Applause. Synesthesia, Gabriel, is just a really nasty will debuff. Roaring Applause is the one, which seems silly and stupid, but it's a really good spell for that reason. Yeah, Roaring.
It makes them clap, which is a manipulate, so you can AOO it. Like, it's fucking great.
Yeah, Nin says Roaring Applause with Bone Mow, which if you think about it is a really nasty combination because you savagely insult them and then they are forced to applaud. This game is
and at level 16, you can maintain a spell as a free action. So it's just great.
Right. That is the one thing about it. I think it has sustained. Like, it just, that spell, you're like, wow, that's actually a really great spell. And then it makes you realize how stupid slow is to be what it is. So the last spells that we wanted to cover here, we gave Daemon Form, Devil Form, and Dragon Form all A tier. And I basically did this, and there was a lot of discussion about this because, and even you and I had a little bit of a back and forth. Because if you read something like Demon Form, it has the polymorph trait, and the polymorph trait says that unless otherwise stated, polymorph spells, unless otherwise noted, the battle form prevents you from casting spells, speaking, and using manipulate actions that require hands. If there's any doubt about the action, then the GM decides. Now, all of these forms, which typically let you become diabolical or demonic creatures, which are scary, have arms and legs, most of them are capable spellcasters in their own right. This spell specifically says you have hands in this battle form and can use manipulate actions. Note, it does not specifically say that you can cast spells. It also does not specifically say that you can speak. But I'm willing to bet that, so raw, which is what I argued, raw, you can't cast spells. Yeah. But is that how you would rule that? Because I would certainly allow them to speak, right? Why wouldn't? How awesome is that? You turn into a diabolic creature and now you can't talk? No, you want to be menacing and evil.
So, okay. It makes me wonder what about the purpose of battle forms, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd be almost willing to say you can speak, you can use manipulate actions like it says, you can do all the kind of things, but you can't cast spells, motherfucker. Because fuck you. It's a battle form. It comes down to whether you thought that druids in 3.5 were broken,
right,
or cool.
Yeah,
It's like
right. The purpose of a battle form to me is you go, I normally cast my chain lightnings and I fireball and I cone a cold, and my AC is a couple points lower, and I don't, my hit points are like 20 to 30 points less than everybody else. So I'm going to turn into a demon. I'm going to up my armor class to martial level. I'm going to gain 30 temporary hit points, and I'm going to get a plus 22 attack modifier. And I'm going to get some big claws that do damage. I want to have fun too in melee. And, maybe I don't have 10 combat related feats that let me be as, when you add those things together, like a barbarian or a ranger or a monk would. But my stats are at least competitive, and I can get in there and have fun. That to me is what the purpose of a battle form is.
Exactly. It is the option of a caster to be a martial for a while.
Yep.
And the other side of that is, when would you use it? So depending on the person, it would be either at the start of combat, because that's how you want to play your character.
Yep.
Or it would be these rare one-off situations when I need to frighten someone, or I need to hold the door, right, as a caster. And for some reason, I don't want to cast Wall of Force, which is awesome.
Right.
We'll get to later today. But like, all right.
But I gave these spells A's because number one, I feel like they actually accomplished that. They give you a very competitive attack modifier. They give you a very competitive armor class. And hell, the devil form gives you a champion's equivalent AC. I'm talking +2 full plate, expert at level like 11, which you would be. And it gives you physical resistance 5 to all damage types.
I'd be with you if it lasted more than a minute.
All right.
So it's like
it's supposed to last one fight.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'll give it 10 minutes then. So the reason I don't like them is because you're going back to when you'd use them. You're either using it in your first turn or in the middle of the fight.
Right. So let me actually
your most valuable turn.
Let me solve this. Let me solve this issue right now. Okay. I started doing this in my Abomination Vaults game, which I ran. That was not aired. That was just it was like when Foundry first came out, and I ran an Abomination Vaults game for my friends Aaron, Bob, Tim, Kaz. We were playing on Foundry. I started doing this. I did this a little bit in Rise of the Ruin Lords because I thought it was such a cool concept. There was a very early episode where Rory, who was playing Gore the Fighter at the time, right? He kicked in the door to charge in against the goblins. So I made him make an athletics check to kick in the door. That was also his initiative, right? That feels awesome. That makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to give people, obviously fighters have a pretty fucking good initiative because they're good at everything, but like to use their skill. I took this to the next level in Abomination Vaults, where if a character was, say, using the exploration action, I think it's called Investigate, where you're basically making a series of recall knowledge checks, right? You're looking at, for signs of occult energies or whatever. I would let that player roll initiative with their occultism skill. Or if you were detecting magic, I would let you roll it with Arcana. Smith took this to the next degree, which is basically this. It's like, what are you doing as this fight's starting? I'm kicking in the door. What are you doing, wizard? I'm casting demon form. Oh, that's cool. You can roll your initiative with Arcana. Okay. And that is like the thing that you are doing as you guys enter combat. So Aaron gives us essentially everybody gets one free spell to cast as we enter into a fight.
That sounds fucking awesome. And that's the bit of combat of war.
And it changes everything. Right. Like clearly if we got ambushed, this isn't even a situation, by the way, where if we are literally ambushing the enemy, Aaron will let us cast 4 or 5 spells on it. And sure, the duration's only a minute. So you're only going to have 5 rounds of it. That's usually enough in Pathfinder 2. But in in a standard, like, oh, it's a fight, he almost always gives us that one opportunity. If we're literally surprised, then we don't get that. But if we are sort of having any sort of sense of we are the ones who are sort of engaging in this fight, we get that one opportunity to cast a spell and potentially roll with something else for initiative. And that has been really awesome because just getting one spell off before the fight starts makes a huge difference.
Motherfucker. So we talked about how I do combat of war in my thing, and how your idea that you can't do combat of war in Pathfinder is wrong.
Okay.
This is exactly why, because I give everyone essentially 1 or 2 actions, which is for this purpose, because that's what it is. So it actually ends up pretty much exactly how you're describing Smith doing it.
Right.
His actually is more elegant. I like his version of it more than mine. I really like it. I'll probably steal that, but my version was 1 or 2 actions, and that's all you get. So it could be I bust open the door and then walk inside. So they essentially get a little bit extra than what he's doing. But it's awesome. And you found that breaks the game, Derek?
Nope, absolutely not.
Yeah,
no.
Right?
And
you were wrong.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. Like, I mean, I'm sure it does on some mathematical level, but
Sure.
like it just opens up the gameplay space so much more. And again, there was something I was doing in Abomination Vaults, and Smith sort of took it to a level 10, which is like, if somebody is rolling with stealth for their initiative, he basically will let them put their model or mini anywhere in the room.
That's really cool.
Right? Like, they snuck in before the party got there. Right? Or like when like the party was rolling out and having like their cool cutscene moment of the, as like the fight started, the rogue or whatever was tumbling through the shadows 50 feet into the room behind a pillar. And they are starting the fight in cover, hidden, but like halfway across the room, ready to, sweep to the flank or ready to engage a weaker, more vulnerable target. And that's really
so
cool.
Every GM in the chat, this is how you put in some combat of war into your Pathfinder. And Vin stamp of approval. I'd hate complimenting Will, but he did a good job.
Yes, yeah. And it was really just, again, taking this idea that sort of I dabbled with, and Smith said, yeah, let's just take it full. Like, I wasn't willing to go that next level. And he said, let's do it. Let's go that far. And it worked out really well.
To be fair, he does, but sounds like he does really use the XP of his combat encounters. So that might be why it's balancing out to some degree.
True. So we got a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of chats.
Yeah, a lot of things in here in chat. So Needham says this includes stuff like offensive spell and the initiative roll. Generally speaking, no. Like, because the idea is like, this is kind of like what you were doing right before the combat started. Like, a fight's about to happen. If I'm trying to throw a fireball, that would be the fight. This is like me casting a quick spell or like drawing a weapon.
I've allowed it because what we've had is the fighter knocks open the door just as the caster is casting fireball, and I've allowed that. It hasn't really fucked everything. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think knowing Aaron, he would probably be open to that idea. But like, generally speaking, I think that keep it to buffs. Make it easier, make it funner that way. It's also a great way for like, if you have like focus spells. Like, I found that I'd never get through all my focus points. I didn't even take the higher level refresh 2, refresh 3 focus points because I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time to cast these focus spells in a combat encounter. So Flame Loud says, no clue what combat of war is, but I think I'm liking the idea is what he says. Henry, who by the way is an adventurer of Last Call. That means he has decided to join the great adventure and join the YouTube channel. You can do that below. You can also find a link below to our Stream Elements tip page, our super chats, all things that you could do to support the Knights of Last Call. Vin supports the Knights of Last Call. You should support the Knights of Last Call. Vin, you're right.
Roasting me for saying combat of war. I know it's combat as war. Fuck you.
So Henry wanted to know what exactly you meant by combat of war.
It's like God of War.
Yeah,
Pathfinder.
So again, I think Nin says recall knowledge during initiative would be nice. Yeah, Nin. So that is something that I did that was like one of the things that I was doing in Abomination Vaults, which was if somebody was using the investigate, like, what are they called? The exploration actions, right? Like, you can defend and have your shield raised. You could be looking for hazards or traps. If somebody was like, I'm keeping an eye out for signs of undead, they are basically saying, I'm investigating with religion. I'm basically recall knowledge. Well, then that initiative roll is them recalling knowledge, right? And so I would let them recall knowledge essentially as part of their initiative check. How, by the way, that's not a skill feat, I don't even fucking know. Like, I'm giving this stuff away for free, which is fine because, God, at this point, by the way, once you're past like 12th level, like skill feats, it's just like, okay, what are the 2 that I'm gonna take, and then everything else is just like a random, doesn't even matter.
Which am I going to assurance next?
Yes, it doesn't even matter. So yeah, I don't understand why they don't have those. But yeah, anything to get the party started. I wouldn't even be opposed, by the way, if like a ranger was like tracking. Like they found footprints, they knew goblins are in the next room, or you saw signs of ghouls, that they could roll initiative with like nature or survival or whatever and start the fight off with a hunt prey. I think that would be awesome as well. So
that's cool.
Anyways, all right. So
we have a good one here from, let's see, someone said 80%.
Okay, Needham Wolf says, I think promoting stuff that is not all enemies start at 80% hit point is a good idea.
I have a counter argument.
Okay.
So remember that we're talking about situations where the party has set things up. Okay, so well, first and foremost, are you as the GM having enemies inside locked rooms and for some reason ignoring the rest of the dungeon? If so, then I'm with you. If you're not, if you're allowing it be an actual sandbox, then for the party to get into that situation, they'd have to sneak up, not be detected. The enemies can't see them coming. They have to set everything up in a situation where they can get a surprise. And for that, their reward is, they get to bust open the door and throw a fireball. That's fucking awesome. I don't know.
Yeah. Ruinsmith says, problem I have with these pre-combat buffs using a single spell to buff is those who, don't cast spells. Should then those who have nothing to open combat with be allowed to shoot? No, Ruinsmith. They're martial characters in Pathfinder 2. They're already so much better than everybody else. Their advantage is that they get to have fun and crit and actually be effective. They haven't been nerfed into the ground and, all that. Also, you're probably a free archetype caster anyway, so why don't you just cast the spell and start the fight off right, I don't think like I said, a rogue might, if they use stealth for initiative, like I said, I would let them start the fight in the room, hidden behind some pillars or barrels, right? Like you can get busy with it. Someone has a really good athletics, maybe like Vince said, they bust through the door, they start the fight basically at the front line, come and get me. One of the worst things that you could do in any D20 based games, and this happens in a lot of D20 based games, is party starts the fight in the doorway. Monsters win initiative, they engage the party, and everybody ends up fighting in the doorway of the fucking... In the doorway. And it's the worst thing. It's like the worst thing. You're like, oh, I had this cool room and all this stuff going on, and what did we do? Everybody's got movement and movement abilities, and he's got quick jump, and they have acrobatics. What did you guys do? We stood there in the doorway, and we fought. Yeah, so anything that you could do to, do that, I think is fun. Henry says, what about a monk entering a stance before combat? I think that'd be sweet too. I think those, I hate to say it, those like punishment actions just to be able to play your class, like, I don't know, like to me, like
it's like a barbarian using rage.
Yeah. Like
that would be a start of a combat.
That is what started the combat. Like how if a barbarian goes, oh, that's it. I rage and I rip. Okay. Roll initiative. Okay. But then they win initiative. So then they're attacking you, but you haven't raged yet. But wait, me raging is what started the combat. How did they attacking me if that's what started the combat? Shouldn't I already be raged? Anyways, all right. All right. So let's do some spells before we we'll get through the spells, and if we got Vin for a little while longer, we'll get into it. All right, Vin, we got Gray Shadow.
All right. So to preface this, I started reading some of these spells, and then I realized my live reactions will probably be more interesting. So,
okay, got it.
I did not read many of the spells today.
That's all right. Well, you can bring it up on your archives and ethics if you need to, but I am going to read it. I'm going to kind of read it through here for the chat. So this one is from Strength of Thousands Adventure Path. It's an uncommon necromancy shadow spell. It's 3 actions, 30-foot range, and it targets a dying creature, and you can sustain it for up to a minute. You pray over that dying creature, drawing its shadow into your service as long as its owner is stooped at death's door. Again, all this lovely flavor text that should be italicized and separate from the mechanics. You summon a greater shadow, which I'm sure is probably low level. Level 7 creature. And this is a level 6 spell, so you are level 11 minimum. In the space adjacent to a dying creature, it does do an extra D8 poison damage.
Keep reading it, man. Keep reading. It gets better.
When you cast the spell, you can use the Greater Shadow's location as the origin point instead of your own location. Upon doing so, the Greater Shadow immediately disappears. And if the dying creature, for any reason, dies or regains consciousness, your spell ends. So this is pretty bad, right? There's like 8 ways.
What even is this spell?
Well, all right, let's be clear. So for starters, it's a summon, right? Because it's 3
Oh,
action.
no, pause. You're getting too far ahead of it. This spell doesn't work unless the GM is casting on a player.
Oh, true. Because most monsters don't even go to dying, right?
Yeah.
They go to. So does that make it a GM spell?
Sure. Like, what?
I mean,
why is this in the spell? Like, what? Okay.
Well, it's from an adventure path, so obviously they want to do something cool, and rather than just giving a creature an ability, they need to make it a fully fleshed out spell.
Well, so do most GMs have the enemies immediately die?
If it's like an important NPC, maybe. I'll say 2 things. 1, if it's an important NPC, maybe not. And 2, if there's something in the monstrous party maybe capable of healing, then they don't.
They usually leave it on the field. Yeah.
So
this would come as a player. This would come up maybe twice a campaign.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because to be clear, this is a summon spell. You're taking 3 actions. It's got a sustained duration. It's going to be a minion. You're summoning something that is way under level that will have no impact on the battlefield. So baseline summon. But unlike a normal summon spell, which you can cast anytime, this one only is castable if there's a dying creature on the battlefield. And the spell can end early, not only from the immediate death of the creature, but also if the creature whose shadow you summon for some odd reason gets healed. So this spell to me is a GMF.
Yeah, Yep.
Okay. All right.
That's kind of where
all right. I'm glad we're in agreement there. All right. GMF.
I'm wondering what in Strength of Thousands caused them to make this.
That is one of the adventure paths I have not bought or read. And yeah. So Ruinsmith says there's other spells that target dying creatures that give you a benefit when you succeed. This does nothing when you kill them. Needam says they always have their enemy go to dying. We just don't figure out the dying checks unless there's anything that's relevant. Brofleth Savage, F. You summon a CR7 creature, and then the second ability is to cast a spell and delete the creature is completely stupid. So yeah. I agree.
You have to sustain. So you have to, you had all your actions next turn as well.
Right. So it's very, very silly. All right. So our next one is a rare spell from Legends. It is Halcyon Infusion. Vin, when we were in our pre-show, you used the word Halcyon, and I was excited.
It's because I read this spell. And this is one of the last ones I read.
That's actually funny. Okay. So it's a rare spell. So prepare for some shenanigans. And there's a lot of text. It's a brick and a half of text. It's a 10-minute casting time on the Arcane Primal list, touch range, and it targets a willing creature of lower level than you. So no one in your party. The duration is until your next daily prep. So it's got that going for it. You give someone magical energy. You open them up to the pathways of magic and grant them the ability to use magic. Choose a first level spell that you have prepared or that's in your repertoire of the same tradition used to cast the infusion. That spell must be one that has a listed range. And if the target is at least 3rd level, then you could use a 2nd level spell. And if the target's at least 5th level, then you can use a 3rd level spell. And they can cast that spell once per day. If they're untrained, yada, 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 they have a shitty DC. Unlike most abilities that can only be used once per day, the target refreshes their use of the granted innate spell each day only after you make your daily preparations and choose to extend Halcyon Infusion's duration by either refraining from preparing a spell slot or expending a spell slot if you are a spontaneous spellcaster, and you could heighten it to 8th and 10th, in which case you can then go to a 4th level spell if they're at least 7th and a 5th level spell if they're at least 9th. So you give someone that's lower level 1 spell a day. How
amazing would this be if you use this on an ally? It would be great. I would love this spell if you could use it on an ally.
You mean like one of your actual party members?
Yeah. Since you can't, D.
Yeah, I think that actually is reasonable. Like if you could just give a non-spellcaster in your party the ability to cast an invisibility spell, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna transfer this invisibility spell to you, rogue. And you know what? I'm okay like leaving that off of my slot list for the rest of the campaign. As far as I'm concerned, you just have invisibility now. I'm okay with that. I think that's awesome.
That'd be awesome. And in fact, I would potentially house rule this.
Okay, what about this? What about this? Matthew Bruns had a really interesting point. He said, use it as a GM spell to give the party spells.
Yeah, this could be a really good
Henry
GM
$10
or C if you're
awesome to see you on the
creative
stream.
with it.
To show my appreciation, Let me give Derek
That's a
some
pretty
more
cool
money.
idea.
Henry with a $10 tip said, awesome to see Vin on the stream. Here, let me show my appreciation by giving Derek money. Thank you, Henry. We love to see it. That's why he's here, to work for me. Thank you very much, Henry. Thank you for your continued generosity. I love what Matthew was saying, though.
Yeah.
Like
That's a really cool idea.
the high-level patron, right, says, you're going to go do this thing. I'm going to grant you a fly spell or whatever that you need in order to accomplish this mission.
So the only issue I have with that is
Yeah.
that it's the spell you grant is based on the target's level, right?
Yes. So you can't like give them a teleport spell, but like if you're
Give them the scroll. Like what are you like what is
Listen,
this?
you're not supposed to no one's supposed to use scrolls, okay? Let me tell you about my 20th level fighter. I think a bag of holding type 4 can hold 80 bulk. I think that's the official thing. That means it can hold 800 light bulk. L. It is entirely possible that I have cheated and that my bag of holding actually has too many scrolls in it. I think because of the exponential, at a certain point I was like, you know what? I just have 10 of every scroll. If it's below 6th level, I'm 20th level. If the spell is lower than 6th level, I just get 10 of it. I just have 10 of every scroll in the game. It's just in my bag. It's one action, interact to pull it out. We're good to go. I can just cast any spell in the game. What are you, a fighter? Yeah, of course. I have a plus 40 to hit. It's great. But I can also cast every spell in the game. It's awesome. It's amazing.
It's awesome.
I do think what Matthew was saying is really cool.
It's flavor.
It's very flavorful, and it is a rare spell. I think it is very limited use as a player. I'm gonna rank this as a GM C.
Okay.
I think it is more of a GM spell. Honestly, I can't.
I'd put it higher because here's the thing, right? It'd be really cool as a party seeing this for the first time. If you, as a GM, hospitality do stuff is for the flavor, right? So just because of the flavor, I'd give it like a GMB or something like that.
Yeah. All right.
Really
Brothleth, who I usually agree with, he says GMB as well. So we'll give the upgrade. I do agree with that. I think it gets the extra point rank on the flavor, on the coolness level, not just the power level. And I agree. I mean, we could rate it as a player spell, but in most cases, a player's just not even going to take this spell. It's just not going to work. And NPCs don't really accompany you like that. Like we don't do hirelings or anything like that like we used to.
And you're more likely to send your NPC to die than give them a spell. Like,
right. Like anyone who you would bring with you is just going to get,
fodder.
Just
they're fodder. They go through the door first, like obviously.
Yeah, the enemy is just going to crit them on a 2 and they're just going to be dead. Let's see. Someone said, "Wait, am I not supposed to use the true power Pathfinder 2 capitalism?" That is true. Total Entropy says it's good if your party is all marshals. I disagree, Total Entropy. If your party is all marshals, number one, there's a very good odd chance that somebody has at least one spellcasting dedication, in which case they can use all scrolls in the entire game. Two, if they don't have that, they have trick magic item. So,
yeah,
and
also you can't cast any party members because you're not high level.
Correct. So it wouldn't even matter then either.
If you could cast any party members, I'd say it's a good B or even A tier spell.
Needom followed that up with, though, seriously though, the exponential gold scaling in Pathfinder 2 is just my superpower is money. I do actually agree with that.
To be fair though, most people don't play up at level 15 plus, so.
No, I agree, but I mean, the exponential scaling is ridiculous in that game.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal was there.
Yeah, I don't know either. All right, Lur's Dream is our next spell. It's another rare. It's from Monsters of Myth. Check out if you want to see about Monsters of Myth, check out our review video that we did on that one. They don't let you show dislikes anymore on YouTube. They took those down because they hurt people's feelings, which is a good thing because it really hurt our feelings how many people disliked that video. Henry says, don't you have to be able to cast spells the Scrolls tradition in order to use it? Yes, Henry, but taking the spellcasting dedication of that tradition counts as being able to cast spells of that tradition. Even though you don't have slots yet, you just have cantrips, you could still use scrolls.
So you could spend 1 feat or dedication feat to be able to cast 8th level heal scrolls.
Yep.
For no negatives, essentially.
Yep. Yeah. Pathfinder 1, of course, had the caster level check, and you had to make it, and it was based on the level of the scroll, and you had a chance of failing, but they got rid of that. There's a D20 roll for everything else in Pathfinder 2, but not for that.
Brobleth's got you. Brobleth got you.
I have an extension to show me the number of dislikes. Yeah, well, that one's got a lot. Anyways.
It's between you and him.
Yeah, between you and him. So Lure Dream is our next one here. It's 3-action occult spell only. 30 feet.
This is the last one I read before I gave up because I was like, oh, this is just gonna make me angry. I'm gonna show up on the stream and react there instead.
All right. It's 30 feet, sustained up to 1 minute. 3 actions. You reach out to the dream realm. This sounds so cool. And you bring an animate dream. This works like summon animal, except you summon an animate dream.
Click through the stat block.
Let's take a look at animate dreams, ladies and gentlemen. Animate dream has a creature from the animate realm. It is a level 8. Okay, it's better than the shadow. So let me get this straight. The shadow, you have to target a dying creature. If the creature dies or it gets healed, you lose the damn thing. And it only was a level 7. This thing's at least level 8. It's only 3 levels lower.
And you're level 12. That's still, they were just still.
Yeah. So this is a summon spell. But at the point where you're casting something that's 3 levels lower than you. It also does not heighten at all. Henry says party level -3. That is true at 11, but at 12 it's party level -4. So
and let's be clear, party level -3 is still auto crit
right
half the time.
Right. And party level -3 is definitely don't use monsters that low. They just die instantaneously. Also, this spell doesn't heighten at all. The animate dream never gets better. There's like 1 level in the game where you could cast this spell.
They only had 1 stat block. They couldn't make more.
It's like summon, but instead of an entire list of creatures, you just get 1.
Does that make this a D or an F? I think D.
No, I think
technically it works.
I think it makes it. All right.
I mean, I'm just gonna by your thing. I'd give it F.
Okay. Remind me, summon creatures can't use spells, right?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. They have 2 actions, right? So,
let me see.
They'd have to be able to use spells because you can summon Fae and stuff.
Let's take a look here. It has the minion trait. If it tries to cast a spell of equal or higher level than the spell that summoned it, it overpowers the summoning magic, causing its own spell to fail and for the summoned spell to fail. Okay. So this creature, Animate Dream, gets a bunch of 4th level spells.
Yeah, so you're casting with a 6th though. So
yeah, but it's casting 4th level Confusion. Well, why wouldn't I just cast Confusion?
Yeah, I can use these actions. I have to sustain you to cast something I could cast better.
Flame Loud says F. It's still D. I mean, I'm going to mark it at D because, yes, it does actually summon a creature.
Your criteria suck. This is showing us.
By the way, you know what's so funny? People are like, Derek is so harsh. I'm like, I'm being so generous right now. By the way, we got called out. We got subtweeted by Logan Boner because he was like, oh, cool, someone's doing a tier list of Pathfinder 2 all spells. Who could that possibly be, right? That has to be us. And it's like, looks at the thing. Oh, 90% of it is, oh, these people suck and they don't know how to make spells. It's like, okay, 90%, not 90%.
It's like 60 tops.
Tops. All right. The fact that spells get F with this low of a bar. Listen, my general thing for F is like the spell basically literally just cannot function. That does summon a creature. And it's bad. But like the summon spells were C originally until the monsters got cooler, so they had to summon lower level monsters. So summoning actually is not too horrible at the early phases of the game. But it gets really bad later on. All right, Mislead is our next spell. We got another one. This is another classic spell. It's been around for a long time. Correct, Runesmith. F is it just does not do anything. D is it does something, right? D's like, F is like you didn't even turn in the paper. D is like, well, you wrote words. You made this doesn't make any sense, but you did technically turn in a paper. Illusion for Mislead. It's a 2 action from Arcane and Occult, and it has the verbal and somatic component. Sustained up for 1 minute. You turn yourself invisible and at the same time create an illusory duplicate of yourself. And whenever you sustain the spell, you can mentally basically command the duplicate to follow that round. And your duplicate acts as if it had your full number of actions, but it can't actually really do anything to the environment. It's an illusion. Both the duplicate and your invisibility persist for the spell's duration. Performing a hostile action does not end Mislead's invisibility, just like a 4th level invisibility spell, although you do have to sustain it. A creature that determines the duplicate is an illusion doesn't necessarily know that you are invisible, and one that can see your invisible form doesn't necessarily know that your duplicate is an illusion. The fact that we have to explain these things in these spells is crazy. If you cast a spell, attack, or otherwise interact with a creature, as a part of the action, you can attempt a deception check against their perception DC to convince them that it was your illusory duplicate that used that action. This does not fool anyone who is aware that your duplicate is an illusion, nor does it work if the attack obviously could not have come from the duplicate. What does that mean? For example, if you fired a ray...
It into a full example.
Yeah. For example, if you fired a ray, you could make it look like it came from your duplicate as long as your duplicate was positioned appropriately. But if you attacked with a sword and your duplicate was across the room for the target, your deception check would automatically fail. So, it is a baseline. It is a improved invisibility, self-target only, with a duration of sustain 1 minute instead of a duration of 1 minute. But you get this illusory duplicate, and you might, fake somebody out.
Look. Okay. It's also a 6th level spell.
I mean, it's 2 levels higher than level 4 invisibility.
Yeah. But like, it's a 6th level spell, Derek.
No, I'll say this. I would like the spell a lot better if you didn't have to sustain it.
Exactly. That'd be actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. I don't.
The reason I keep repeating the fact that it's a 6th level spell is because I'm thinking about me being level 12 instead of 17, and me having to pick between chain lightning and this or whatever, right? And I'm just like sitting here going, what the fuck would I even remotely consider? And by the time you'd be considering taking this spell, i.e. your deception check is high enough, because you still have to make fucking deception checks. Instead of arcane, like, well, how cool would it be if you're actually using your own thing? Like the magic, the quality of your magic is what deceiving them rather than deception.
Right. Well, there's a couple of things here. Like, unlike a lot of spells that are in this kind of area, like normally they give you like that, you get to use your level even if you're untrained, and you get to add a status bonus. Like Knock does this, and Disguise Self does this with deception checks. This does not. This is just straight up you have to be good at deception. You have to be good to have a good charisma. You have to be trained or expert or whatever in order to beat the creature's perception DC. I guess, and the other thing is it's 1 minute. So this is very clearly to me a combat spell. Right?
Yeah. So it's a combat spell which gives you 4th level invisibility, but is sustained and has the potential to mislead people.
Correct.
And given the fact that it has a duration sustained, that means that that's pretty much the only thing you're doing outside of casting spells is combat.
Well, I think the general idea is that you don't move for the rest of the combat.
Yeah, you cast it.
Right, you cast it, you stay in the square you were in, great or invisible, casting spells, doing things, and then your illusion is running around doing things. So somebody says...
Does it tell you how you can move your illusion?
Yes, it says... Your duplicate acts as though it had your full number of actions.
Oh, okay.
Someone said this is definitely a bard spell. I mean, it is arcane occult, so it is definitely more than just a bard spell. But I do agree with you that it's a pretty cool. But it's like, well, there's another big X factor for this, right? Which is, how does your GM going to react to this, right? Because your GM knows that is an illusion, and if they play it up, like if your GM, sometimes it's weird. You can almost trigger your GM to soft fudge, right? Like normally a creature might be a little suspicious, but you're like, GM feels bad because he doesn't want to like make it look like he's being biased. So he'll like go out of his way to be like, oh, the creature uses its highest level spell on the illusion because he's just so convinced, right? Like you can almost like trick them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Because as GM, you want to reward them for using something cool.
Right. They use a 6th level spell slot, right? They could have just cast invisibility, and I probably would have been just as screwed. But like they use this mislead. I feel like I need to invest some monster resources into trying to track this wizard down.
In that universe where the GM spends 3 or 4 or 5 monster actions dealing with this misleading creature.
Yeah.
This could be excellent.
Oh, 100%. That's what I'm saying. This is kind of almost like GM dependent thing.
Yeah. So, okay. Probably the biggest reason I'm mad about this is the fact that the illusion can't do anything. So in my universe,
well, it says it can't actually affect anything in the environment. So it can't, like,
so in my universe, when the creature walks in, or the illusion walks in and doesn't disturb the dust on the floor, the dragon with a perception of fucking 40 notices immediately and doesn't give a fuck. Like I don't like. It's a weird. I don't know.
Yeah. C.
I'd give it okay. In the world where the GM is nice, I'd give it a solid B or A. Like,
okay.
It's still a an invisibility, a 4th level invisibility,
right? Which we know is very powerful. It is sustained.
Yeah.
That is, but I think the idea is that you're like basically just like not moving anymore. It's like this added level of protection because you're
essentially think of it this way. In the nice GM scenario, you're trading one of your actions every turn for potentially 1 to 2 enemy actions if they investigate this stupid thing.
Needham Wolf just dunked on you. He said, "Excuse me, that dragon needs to perform the seek action to see that the dust is not disturbed." He's not wrong, by the way.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong in Pathfinder, which I do not play.
once you enter combat, vision becomes like an optional thing. Like you don't have vision, you have to expend an action, and then you have to send out that cone, that pulse wave of seeking, because that's the way it works, right? You have to. It's either a 30-foot burst or a 60-foot directional cone.
Undead though with life sense would immediately not be. But.
All right, I'm going to go with B because I think most GMs are going to be that, and I think 4th level illusion is very, very powerful. And I think there's a lot of instances where you cast approved invisibility, it's great, but they know what square you're in, and they come over to you and they're attacking you, maybe, and they just have their DC 11 flat check. But this has a very real chance of not only eating up a couple monster actions, but a lot of times as a GM, I think this is going to set up a scenario where you are not going to just be hidden to them, but you are actually going to be undetected. And you're going to be able to cast spells and remain undetected because of this deception delusion thing. So, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Also, I would say that if I was casting Disintegrate Ray, that would clearly be a deception because I want to make the ray look like it came from my illusion. But if I'm just casting something like Slow, which doesn't necessarily like emit from me, I would say there's no check at all.
Yeah.
Right? Like it just looks like my illusory duplicate cast Slow. And I wouldn't even allow them.
So it really comes down to the GM because as the GM, like I used the dragon example as a extreme case because it did say plus 40 perception. When the numbers get that high, I start hand waving things like having to make a seek check. That said,
cheater.
Damn straight. On the flip side of things though, if it's like you versus 4 Ettins, and this is the first thing you do in combat, and that thing, the illusion is the first thing in. If you're spending 6 enemy actions on an illusion, that's S.
Yeah, I mean, imagine casting this in a Smith game, right? Where like the thing, as the party's busting in, the wizard's fading from view and being, like replaced by like his Doctor Strange spirit form, right? Like that's
suddenly this like fleshy dude, like no armor, runs into the middle of an enemy. Like I'd almost put this in A. In that case, just to account, because in my game it would still probably be a C or B. It wouldn't be terrible.
Total Injury says, I don't think you remain undetected while you cast the spell, Derek. I don't know. Baseline invisibility, if you cast invisibility and they see you cast invisibility, you are hidden, not undetected. But if you start the fight invisible, you are undetected, not hidden. But because this is summoning an illusionary duplicate, I don't know. I'm tempted to say that you would be undetected.
How we put it to a poll? With the many arguments now put up.
All right.
B or A?
Yeah. All right. What is this called? Mislead. All right. We got A. We got B. Let us know. Ask your community. Even with 2 people, we can't decide. I mean,
what's your gut feel?
My gut feel is, because of the way that I think most people, GMs, are going to respond to this spell, I think it's a B.
Okay.
And
right.
and I think that I think greater invisibility is busted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, this is a 6th level spell. Like, in most cases, I'd rather cast greater invisibility.
Sure.
Which is 4th.
Right. So, but greater, I think invisibility 4 was S. So, we can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
sustain does hit it a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm very cognizant of the sustain. So
I'm leaning towards B because of sustain.
Okay, we'll let this run for a second. Let's see if we got any chats in here. Roll for Combat is here. Welcome, Steven. Does Derek hate everything or just mostly everything? We haven't really got anything I like so far, so that is terrific.
Yeah.
Bob says he found Vin, who also hates everything. A bunch of B's and C's. I don't think it's worth being 2 levels above invisibility.
So I did a test once that told me that I was in the bottom 10% of agreeability. What it means, what you'll find today is I'll often start by hating a spell and then slowly warm up.
That's good. So. No, that's good. Start at the bottom. You have to, guilty until proven innocent. That's your stuff. B got 66% of the votes, and so we are definitely going to go with that. We're going to go with that.
I think chat's right.
Yeah, I think chat's right as well. All right, so moving on. We've got Nature's Reprisal. What is this? An occult spell? No, it's a primal spell. Plant Poison Transmutation from Secrets of Magic. 3 actions. Yikes. I just hate 3 action spells. I really do. Range 120 feet. Area, all squares on the ground that contain plants within an 80-foot burst of your 120-foot range. Duration is 1 minute. Everything begins to rash out and lash out, to writhe and lash out at your enemies. The area to your enemies, the area becomes difficult terrain, and areas that were already naturally difficult terrain due to plants become greater difficult terrain as well as hazardous terrain, dealing 6 points of automatic poison damage to an enemy each time it enters an affected square. Yeah. It's
situational, but the effect is very powerful. Like, greater difficult terrain is pretty amazing.
Greater difficult terrain plus 6 auto damage. So it's like, oh, well, I have to spend, 15 feet of movement to go 1 square. So it's like a stride gets me maybe 2 squares, and I took 12 damage. And poison is, I don't think it's super high on the resistance. I mean, there's a fair number of creatures that are immune to it, but those creatures tend not to be outside where there's a bunch of plants.
The damage is almost like just a gimme. Like, the greater difficult terrain is why you're using this, pretty much.
I agree.
And it's primal only, and so it's a druid spell, pretty much.
It is druid. It could be a sorcerer spell.
I wouldn't take this as a sorcerer.
I mean, why not? What if you're outside?
Because it's too situational. Well, yeah, if you're outside, if you're in the forest a lot, yeah.
Give it on a scroll. It is nice, but it only affects your enemies too. So it is, unlike a lot of things in the game.
Wait, is it? Oh, to your enemy. That's awesome.
Right. So
that's
now,
really good.
Granted, if the area was already difficult terrain, it becomes greater difficult terrain. It's still regular difficult terrain to your allies because it was always going to be difficult terrain. But if it was normal terrain, it would become difficult terrain and only affect your enemies. And if it becomes
and you can't step into difficult terrain, so if they can step away from the enemy and the enemy would not be able to follow without striding.
That is true. Awesome. That is true. I like this spell, actually.
Yeah.
And it's a big honking area.
Yeah. And the thing is about being the reason I think this is mostly a druid spell is because you can prep this when you want to.
Correct.
Because
that is true. If you go, we're going to be in the dungeon of the Mad King. Okay, we're not taking this spell. But if we're going to go hunt giants in the forested mountain slopes, badass, right? You are getting into an area of the game where like things might be able to fly, and that could be a problem. But for the most part, I think things are still pretty much on the ground. And it does heighten, but very pathetically so. I don't think you would. It adds 1 extra point of damage per level that you heighten it to the auto. Like, what are we?
The area doesn't even increase.
No, it doesn't do anything else. Like, that's horrifying. But I mean,
80-foot burst is huge.
So 80-foot burst, and it's 120. It's not like 80-foot burst within 30. No, it's like 120 feet. If you encounter enemies actually outside, like if you've been watching our Quest for the Frozen Flame game, you know that I basically doubled the size of all the maps. And so, you have maps that are 200 feet across, and it's like, oh, there's the enemies. And you're like, okay, well, when they're one turn in, we're going to cast this in the middle of them. And then the ranger's going to get about, 7 rounds to shoot them to death.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I like this, but I think it's an A.
Yeah. I'd give that.
And the fact that it's primal only means, that for the people who can cast this spell, this is a very unique and interesting spell. And again, too, if for some reason a creature can move through this terrain, I mean, if they have to move through 80 feet of that, well, that's 16 squares. That's 96 automatic damage.
Yeah, but remember, it's a burst, so it's actually 160 feet wide.
Right, if they have to literally move through all of it. But
yeah.
The GM's like super soft fudging. He's like, they all just kill themselves. They just rush you. I like that spell. That was cool.
Yeah.
I got to admit that I was a little impressed. Necrotize is our next spell. Secrets of Magic again. You can tell that they didn't have enough high-level spells in the core rulebook because you're getting all of them from Secrets of Magic and stuff. Oh, God. This is a Pathfinder 2 spell for sure. Necromancy, negative. Oh, before we get into this spell, let me ask you a question. I got into a debate with someone on YouTube. Devil form, demon form, they have the evil trait. You are becoming a demon.
But you're not. But you could go. I mean, you are. You're taking on the form of it.
Yeah, but it's got the evil trait. Full stop.
Sure.
But for example, ignore that spell. Any spell, the evil trait. What does this spell do? It rips out their soul and sends them to eternal damnation, and it heals you for 10 hit points. All right? Evil trait. Are you fine with neutral characters casting those spells? If I'm a lawful neutral cleric of
background.
Background.
Yeah, some background. In my game, I'm not using the definitions, anything close to what they are in the book.
Of alignment?
Of alignment. Well, and when I say the book, I don't, because I'm playing with a bunch of people from older D&D. I'm talking about Book of Exalted fucking Deeds. No, I'm not talking about base D&D. So in my game, yes. But if I'm going to, and it got so far that I ruled that alignment damages neutral equally. That's how far I took it.
Okay.
But for this, for Pathfinder, raw Pathfinder 2, do the rules actually say?
No. Well, they say that a good character can't cast it.
I like where you're going with this.
Oh, no. Because I argued that they shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. That's what I assumed you'd be going, because
I argue that being neutral.
What's the point of evil as an alignment if neutral can do everything the evil people do?
Right. Ruin Smith says, yeah, only goods can't because neutrals can do evil acts. Wouldn't that make them evil?
Yeah. Like, what's the point of evil as an alignment if neutrals can do everything evils can do?
Right. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
No, I can see where you're coming from. I'd be, if I was running raw, I'd go with your way.
I'd be like, you're a cleric and you're now summoning demons and becoming demons and ripping people's souls out. You're evil. Like that's how alignment works.
That questions your alignment.
Yeah.
Is the NPC alignment. Neutral is the alignment of evil PCs. Duh.
If you do an evil act for the good of someone else, is that still evil? In the deterministic alignment system of D20 based fantasy, yes.
Yes.
The ends do not justify the means in these game systems. If you want relative morality, then you need to throw out the alignment system. For which is fine. I'm not a fan of it, but like
it's pretty much what I did. That's neutral is most things, and only really evil things are evil.
In fact, one of my favorite, if you want to play D20 fantasy, one of my favorite alignment systems that still keeps it is 4th edition. 4th edition, there was only 5 alignments, and it basically says unless you have an extreme reason to be, everyone's assumed to be neutral. Yeah, you pay your taxes, you love your family. So what? Like that's everybody, you know? And yeah, like if no one's looking, you're going to cross the road, right? Like not at the crosswalk, right? Like that doesn't make you evil. Like, did you steal something when you were a kid? Well, yeah, of course you did, right? You're not evil. 4th edition basically said, unless otherwise noted, actually didn't even call them neutral. It called them unaligned. It was like,
oh, that's good.
It was like they don't have any stake in the greater planar cosmic battle between good and evil. They're just people living their lives. They might be a brigand who, has to kill people sometimes. That doesn't make them evil. They're not like, I am doing this in the pursuit of forwarding the moral vision of an evil world. They're like, I'm just trying to do my thing, man. And so they were called unaligned. It wasn't even called neutral. And then you had 2 alignments. You had good and then lawful good. And then you had evil and you had chaotic evil to like really highlight sort of like the extreme versions of those things. But those were not alignments for what I would call the typical person. If you were truly the stand-up good hero, you might put yourself at good, right? But like lawful good was almost designed for like extraplanar creatures, because a normal mortal just doesn't have that kind of stake in the game. Maybe a very
it's like it broadens the unaligned and makes the ends really narrow, which is again similar to
exactly, and I like that a lot. All right, so Necrotize is our spell. You necrotize.
What was the other guy's argument, by the way? What was the let's steel man the opposing position. So his argument was that neutral should be fine.
Yeah, I mean he was. Well, I think he was arguing the rules as written.
The rules don't say nothing, so whatever, bro.
And specifically, there was. I think the other point was that that if you, God, let me find it real quick here. Oh, does that mean that a lawful neutral cleric can't save someone's life? So, because they said, sorry, no rule against casting an evil spell. A lawful neutral priest of Abadar can cast devil form just as easily as they can cast angel form. And I said, I know, but that's still evil, right? So, like, can a lawful neutral priest of Abadar just like commit murder? Like, oh, that guy has a really sick watch. That was a totally evil act. Yeah, I know. I'm neutral. Like, and it's like, by that same token, can a lawful neutral priest of Abadar save a life? And I didn't respond. So, I mean, you got me there. You beat me. I concede. But anyways, all right.
Heal doesn't have the good trait.
Well, I would argue that saving a life doesn't have the good trait. Also, I would argue that if you are going around saving people's lives all the time and putting yourself at personal risk and danger to do so, you are good. You're good now. You're not neutral. That's what that means.
Yeah, I like that. That's what the word means. Argument. It's not a bad one.
A lawful neutral priest of Abadar can only save a life if he gets paid for it. I actually like that. That's good. That makes total sense. Like, I saved your life, but by the way, you are now in debt.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's like when you pass out and you wake up and you're in the ER room and you go, fuck, I'm going to own so much money. Cast an evil spell, then quick and cast a good spell to balance it all out. I like that a lot too. What if I turn into a demon form for the first half of the fight and then an angel form for the second half of the fight?
Does that make me neutral? Question mark. Shut up.
Yes. Okay. That's what it is. And Needham also said, unaligned is my favorite alignment that I wish didn't get dropped from the game. I agree. I do like unaligned. I like the idea that you're like, I don't care. I just want gold and probably levels, because that's what this game's about. All right. Necrotize is a necromancy negative spell. It's a 60-foot range, one living creature only. Fortitude. Duration varies. You necrotize part of a creature's body, harming it and debilitating it as the body putrefies, mimicking that natural process of decay. Someone at Paizo wanted to be like a doctor or something, and they're just like,
I guess.
They're like, I want to come up with every random effect that rots the body from within. And all right, anyways, the target takes 12d6 negative damage. Oh, we got a super chat. Mr. Damian Williams, pawn no longer himself. Abadar is the god of law and order. Random murder clearly is an anathema for him. All right, there you go. Turn to the anathemas when in doubt. Needham says, someone at Paizo has a body horror fetish. Seriously. I agree. there's so many spells where you go, did they see this in like a Saw film? Is this where this came from? All right. They take 12d6 negative damage on a single target at level 6. Yeah, we could do better than that. And one of the following debilitations, which is of course random to make it more fun. You necrotize their bones, which gives them really crazy osteoporosis. So much so that they get weakness 3 to bludgeoning damage.
3. A whole 3.
Or you could target their joints, and then they become ungainly and clumsy, gaining clumsy 1. Legs, which is different from joints. If you target their joints, they become clumsy. But if you target their legs, they don't become clumsy. But they do take a -10 penalty to their speed. And then if you target their muscles, they become
which is different than legs.
Which is different than legs. Then they become enfeebled 1. Oh, by the way, if they succeed, they take half damage, and that debilitation only lasts until the end of your next turn. If they fail, they take the full damage, and it lasts for a whole minute. And if they critically fail, they take double damage. And you get to pick a second debilitation, not just roll one randomly. Well, you still roll one randomly, but you get to pick a second one. And you can heighten it for an extra 2d6ers.
So the spells like these are hard because they're just so average.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
C. That's what that means, right?
I guess.
I mean, I personally would rate. You say average. To me, I think this spell is horrible, and I have many reasons for this. But like the first reason is the damage is single target, and it doesn't scale with the AOE damage spells. So what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, it's lower.
It's lower. What? Why? Okay. Cone of Cold is 12d6 base. Heightened to 6, it's 14d6. And it targets potentially, we just covered Chain Lightning that did 1,200 damage that can hit everyone in an encounter with 8d12 points of damage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with there being single target fort save spells. Why isn't this 20d6? Why isn't this 24d6? We know why. Because that's what the Marshals do in this edition.
Yeah,
right?
That's
the Marshals thing. I'm okay with that. Like, I get that people hate that spells casters have been nerfed. I played 4th edition D&D. I understand why they did what they did and what they were trying to go for. I'm okay with that. So then why does this spell exist? That's like my thing. It's like, I'm okay with the casters not having spells like this. But then you're going to give it to me and it's just bad.
So like, all right. And there's
by the way, your boy Savolray is like 1,200 damage. He's still trying to get that upgrade to the S plus on Chain Lightning.
So the thing about this is not only does it not do much, it all right. I have a personal pet peeve regarding -10 foot status bonuses or negatives to speeds, because it is almost nothing, and after level 10 means almost nothing, and it's annoying to track. And it's just fucking.
Yeah. Okay.
So as the player, I'm getting maybe a clumsy 1, maybe fuck all weakness to bludgeoning, and maybe enfeebled.
Right.
For
which
probably 1 turn, maybe a minute.
Right. And to be clear, I mean, enfeebled 1's not bad, but it doesn't apply if the creature isn't making strength-based attacks. I think I should note that.
So clumsy is the only one that's really like solid.
Clumsy's the best one, and it's going to hit in 25%. Also, as someone pointed out, it targets 1 living creature. There's a fair number of things in this game that do not qualify as living creatures. So you're
do you think it's a D?
Yeah, I think I do. I do for sure.
Yeah. Fuck it.
I mean, you said average. I think that's why I said I don't like this spell for a variety of reasons.
Well, the thing is, I wasn't thinking about the damage number. I was just thinking about the effect.
Yeah. Like, the other thing I would say about this is if you want to do single target damage spells like this, and you want to have your AoEs, I think they should do more damage. But then at least give them 120 foot range, or at least give them like 200 foot range. Make it so like, yes, if all the enemies were conveniently very close, my Cone of Cold would be the best option. But they're not. They're far away. Or I want to be far away. Or that guy is far away. He's an archer. He's up on a thing. I can't get him. Let me hit him with my single target Necrotize. But Cone of Cold has the same range as this single target spell. Like, what are we doing here?
It's a flavor pick. People take the spell as just a flavor.
Yes, which, okay, I like flavor too, but we're playing a mechanical game, people. Like, Okay. Also, someone pointed out a great point. Nin's been on fire today, by the way. Nin, great job. Nin, I don't know if you're part of our Discord, but you should sign up for our Patreon. Not just because I want your money, but because it seems like you have a lot of good points. And it's Fortitude. This spell is clearly designed to sort of target brutes, right? People moving, AC, enfeebled 1, and they have a great fort save.
Arguably, this is designed for edgelords to target weak people. And it's it's actually supposed to be used on like a wizard. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy that. All right. Nin says, I am not, but also haha. Brovla says, but he also wants your money. This is true. Damien with a nice $5 super chat. What's going on, Damien? Says, I judge all single target damage spells versus heightened magic missiles. That's the best way to do it. Oh, this spell is 120 foot range. I can split it up if I need to, or I could pour it onto one person and it automatically does the damage. I mean, I will say that watching Bob cast a lot of magic missiles at high level has been very eye-opening. Spell's very
just
good.
because consistency.
Yeah, it's just, I have this high armor class and my saves are ridiculous. 65. 65. What can I do? Nothing. Honestly, there are many fights where I go, if all of us were just the same arcane sorcerer as Bob, and there were 4 of us, the fight would be over in 2 rounds, and there wouldn't even be a single die roll made. Like sorcerers have enough hit points, and you have enough defensive things in the game that like you're unlikely to just flat out die like in 1 round. But even if they get one of us somehow, then the other 3 will just finish you off the next round. You know, it's just like 65, 65, 65, 65. Okay, that's 260 or whatever that. What is that? Yeah, 260. Did that kill him?
Yeah.
All right, next round, another 260. All right, that's it. End of story.
I just got like a ridiculous range, so you can just spread out.
Yeah. Mirror image, blur. We're all greater invis. How about that? We all have just this flat DC 11 flat check. It
reminds me of the good old days of Guild Wars 1, where you just have like 4 people casting fucking Obsidian Flame. Anyway.
All right. There we go. Phantasmal Calamity. Sounds cool. It's arcane occult. Level 6 is illusion and mental. Mental is a good trait to note. A lot of creatures are immune to mental spells, but 2 actions, 500 foot range, 30 foot burst. All right. It's a will saving throw. A vision of apocalyptic destruction fills the minds of every creature in the area. The vision deals 11 d6 mental damage. So, basic will save. So this is a mental will save fireball.
Yeah.
With a slightly larger radius, doing slightly less damage. I believe fireball at this level would do 12d6. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Fireball base,
twice the spell level.
Fireball is base 6, heightens to 8 at 4, 10
12
at 5, 12 at 6. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just twice the spell.
So it's just 1d6 less points of damage, but it's 500 foot range, the same, and it's a 30 foot burst instead of a 20 foot burst, and it's a will. The vision deals 11d6 mental damage, and on a critical failure, again, we shouldn't judge too harshly on these. Critical failures aren't that common, and when they are common, they're against lower level creatures that you're probably going to just beat anyways. But the creature must also succeed at a reflex save or believe it is trapped, stuck in a fissure, adrift at sea, etc. If it fails the second saving throw, it is stunned for 1 minute. Not stun 1, stunned for 1 minute. It can attempt a new will save at the end of each of its turns. I didn't know this spell exists. This spell is badass.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
I mean,
all right. I was going to have my enemies use this. The problem is the 2 saves. But as the caster, if this is you versus a bunch of lower level enemies, this is so much cooler than Fireball.
Well, not only that, but I like having the versatility. I mean, it is 1 less d6 than Fireball. By the way, it heightens 2. So it will scale with Fireball for the rest of the game. It'll just be 1d6 behind Fireball. Same range, 500 feet. But targeting will instead of reflex, I think is a big deal.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And Fireball does fire damage. This does mental damage. Yes, there are going to be creatures that are immune to mental damage. We know this. But there are a shitload of creatures that are basically immune to fire or have such a high resistance or just flat out immunity to fire. So Fireball does suffer from that drawback. And it has what I could only call a I mean, it's not even in cap, technically.
Yeah. It's not even in cap because it's delusion.
Brutal critical failure. You're taking double 11d6 and you're stunned for a minute.
Yep. It's at the end of their turns they get another save. So it's at least one turn if they double fail.
Yeah. So Brothleth coming in with his stats as he always does. I'm tempted to give Phantasmal Calamity D for being mental damage, but I think it deserves a B for the critical failure being so nice. There are still around 300 mindless creatures in the game. Perhaps A, not B. I'm going to give it an A. I like this.
Yeah,
stuff.
I reckon A.
Yeah. It's not S tier. If mental wasn't the problem that it has, it would be S, I think.
That's the thing. Some campaigns, mental's not a problem. Straight up.
That's true.
Like
yeah.
And then beyond that, it is, I like the fact that it targets will a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I like that a lot too. There's not a lot of good ways to get damage in on that will save. And that's how casters don't get +3 potency runes on their spells, right? I mean, we have Shadow Signet, so we can cheat, but you don't get that. So what you have to do is find the one save that they suck at, and that's your only out, basically. And so for a lot of times, if the creature has a good reflex and a good fort, you're not really going to be able to do damage. So I love this spell a lot. I think it's great. I'm impressed. Good job, Paizo.
Cool.
That must be one of the 10% that we like. All right. Purple Worm Sting is next. Necromancy Poison. By the way, as we start wrapping up here with the last couple spells, I just want to remind everybody that if you're enjoying this content, you want to be part of these conversations, and you're not a member of our Patreon, please check out the link below, patreon.com/Knights of Last Call. We have a variety of tiers which give you access to community games, our ongoing Northern Reaches mega game where you can play Pathfinder 2 with a bunch of GMs in a persistent shared world. There's bonus content, bonus videos, exclusive Q&As, and of course our Discord, which you can only get into if you're a member of our Patreon, where really, really smart folks are having really, really, really smart RPG conversations 24/7. So definitely encourage you to check that out. And if you are enjoying this and you want to show your appreciation for Vin, give me money. Tip, throw a super chat our way, or use the Stream Elements tip with the link in the description below. We like Stream Elements and we like super chats. All right. Purple Worm Sting. I typically don't like these spells, but
yep.
We've seen 18 versions of this, right? It's 2 actions, 1 creature. It does 3d6 piercing damage, which is automatic. Who cares? It's 3d6. Then they make a fort save, and if they succeed at the save, they take an additional 3d6 poison damage. So it's touch, by the way. They fail. They get Purple Worm at 1. If they crit fail, they get Purple Worm Venom at stage 2, which is a couple points of poison damage, and they get Enfeebled 2. But that's going to be useful against your Brute, and the Brute's going to have a high or extreme fort save. So
and it's touch.
and it's touch.
What do you put the others? D?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably say this is a D. It doesn't not do anything. It's just it's everything that you don't want to be doing, right?
Yeah,
like,
pretty much. I mean, I can see a Magus using this maybe, but I'd still rather use like fucking anything else.
Yeah, like Horizon Thundersphere, anything like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the best status is dead, and like this is just not going to get them there, right? Like they would have to take this damage. The maximum duration, by the way, is 6 rounds. They're definitely going to pass the save. They'd have to take this damage like 5 times before it would just be more than any of the other spells, which would have just happened right away.
Just right away, yeah. Yep.
So,
I mean, stage 3 is 66, which isn't terrible, and Enfeebled 2 is pretty good. So like I could see, but everything else, all the negatives stacking up against it.
Yeah, Enfeebled 2 from the get makes me almost make this a C, but let's see what they're saying here in chat. Nin says there's a wand that costs Fairy Fire that imposes a will save, or everyone in that AoE takes -2 to will saves versus illusion and enchantment spells. So it's a AoE Bone Mow. It's called the Wand of Fey Flames, and it's very notable for spells like Phantasmal Calamity. I don't know that item. That's good to know.
It's a bowler.
All right. So yeah, not really impressed with this. I'm just gonna put it at D.
Unless anyone in the chat fights us, D.
Yeah, just D. I don't.
Whatever.
Let me put it this way. I would never cast the spell. Would you cast the spell?
No.
Okay.
Never.
Yeah.
This is fucking touch range. Anyway.
So this one's going to be weird to rank. Raise Dead. It's uncommon, although note, everyone in Pathfinder Society does get access to Raise Dead. It is 10 minutes, and it costs diamonds equal to their level times 200 gold. And the creature has to be 13th level or lower. Otherwise, you got to start heightening it and paying more money. Yada, yada, yada. The creature can be dead for 3 days, and it comes back unless Pharasma. I like how they don't say like the GM. They go, no, if Pharasma has decided that the creature's time has come.
And then in brackets.
And then in brackets, they just go, at the GM's discretion. Or I love the idea of the creature not returning. I love the idea of a party member casting this on me, and I go, I'm good.
That happened in my campaign, but they asked him first, and they're like, he's like, don't resurrect me. I want to roll a new character.
That's fair enough. And we'll talk about that actually in a hot second here. If this spell is successfully cast, you return to life. By the way, it's 10 minutes, so you're not casting this on a fight. You come back with 1 hit point, no spell slots, no points in any pools, no daily resources, and still with any long-term debilitations of the body. In addition, you're clumsy 2, drain 2, and enfeebled 2 for a week, and you cannot remove these in any capacity. Also, you might have like a streak of white hair or a birthmark from your time in the boneyard. Well, okay, for starters, Pathfinder 2 has the 5th level spell Breath of Life, so which is a reaction that if someone would die, they don't die, and they
Was
get
that
healed.
S?
Yes.
Was that? Or is it A? I remember seeing it and remembering it being robbed. That's all. I was like, I don't know about that, but all right, whatever.
I'm pretty sure it was. Pretty sure that would have been. Was it divine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I have my divine up here. Pretty sure that would have been. I'm pretty sure that would have been. Whatchamacallit.
Has to be yes.
It's got to be S tier. If it wasn't,
Has to be.
mistake. We'll fix it. We'll fix it in post. So this spell. I mean, this is like, okay, we messed up. We failed. Like someone actually died. We couldn't get to them. We couldn't breath of life them. Nin says this feels more like a ritual. There is a ritual, which is called Resurrect, which is somehow in the game, but also different from this. I mean, Brovla says scroll S+, except you still need, here's the problem. This is the problem I have with the game. Okay, we're level. Let me shoot over here to this is important that we look this up. Let's go. Let's load Pathfinder 2, GMG, wealth by level. This is the important part, okay? AON. Here we go. Treasure for new characters. You're level 11. You've just gotten access to Raise Dead. Your level 11 character has 3,200 gold. That's the lump sum if you were to make a new level. So theoretically speaking, your character should have around 3,000 gold worth of magical items and equipment. And to be clear, unless you are the Knights of Last Call from the Rise of the Runelords campaign, ideally you will have probably spent this on weapons and armor that make you able to function and play the game correctly. And very little, if any of it, would be in what I would call raw currency, right? Or something liquid like diamonds. So one of your level 11 party members dies and you go, oh no, he's dead. So let's raise him. Okay, we need diamonds worth a total value of his level 11 times 200. That's 2,200 gold. Okay, but I just told you that that character only has 3,000 gold worth of items, and most of that is probably locked up in his items or her items. So to raise this character, not only would your party potentially have to get rid of all their liquid cash, but you might even have to potentially start selling items, which you get half value for, to be able to raise this person back. And now they come back, and they can't play them for a week. They have no spells. They're drained. Or you loot their dead body, and a new party member enters the campaign at the same level as everybody else with 3,200 GP worth of magical items, and they're ready to adventure the very same day. And because we're playing Pathfinder 2, and there is absolutely nothing random in character creation, they could just make the same exact character with the exact same feats and the exact same magic items. Thoughts?
Death is one of those weird things, right? Because, like, first of all, the cost. So half the argument is the cost is too high. That's what it sounds like, right? Okay, cool. And it makes me wonder what they're trying to encourage with this spell, because
no one knows.
Yeah, because if people is attached to their character, like as a GM, what you'd probably be doing is if people want to really resurrect a character, you probably actually have them do like some kind of quest or.
I mean, this is clearly a brutal punishment.
Yeah,
for someone dying. Yeah,
yep.
You are really encouraging people to make a new character this way.
On the generous side, I would say they're trying to say that dying really matters.
Yes.
But it has a monetary cost. It's not like oh no, you have to convince a NPC to be able to even do this. They're not making it difficult by RP. They're making it difficult by going, no, it's just really expensive, bro.
Right. I don't know. You know, it's really your math makes sense, but it feels wrong, says Casey. You know, it's the problem I have with death in general in Pathfinder 2. Like, I've played basic D&D. I've played games where like your character's life, you throw them in a wood chipper. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. You're not part of some grand saga. You're not some mighty hero of the ages. You're just a scoundrel, a cutthroat, a brigand. You know, you were born in the gutter, you'll die in the gutter, right? That's that old school mentality. There's people who like that. There are even times where I like that. I don't always like that, by the way. Don't get your wires crossed. I'm not some crazy person. But Pathfinder 2, especially, and the adventure paths, are very not that. Your character is they're heroic. Your character is someone special. They are important. They are part of this storyline. They're theoretically part of your group's evolving storyline. So death, the game has tried very hard to keep you from dying. And then when you finally do, they're like, be punished. and it's like so weird that they would do that.
Because like, when would you resurrect? So at this point, especially because they're disabled practically for a week.
Well, because if you couldn't, let's just pretend for a moment that you could not afford this at all. Like it literally was not a possibility for you. Maybe no one is in your group is a cleric, or the GM banned Raised Dead because it's uncommon. Do you kick that player out of your campaign? You say, you can't come anymore. You know, it's like the old Jack Chick comic, you know, Dark Dungeon, where he's like, your character's dead. You're dead. Get out of here. You can't talk anymore. Like, no, of course not. They just make a new character and they roll up. So that's already, so you're penalized. So 2 people die. There was a big fight. One person, you know, it's me or Vin. We go, you know, I'll play something new. Yeah. You know, like it's cool. It's kind of, I wouldn't have changed my character, but this is a cool opportunity for me to switch it up. I'll take the opportunity. Plus, it's like I get to make a level 12 character today. Like, that's cool, right? Yeah. I'm rewarded for that decision with 3,200 gold of lump sum money with which to make a new character. The other person says, but I really like my character. I really like the direction that they're going in the campaign. And the DM goes, okay, you get to keep your character, but you have to sell all your equipment because you need 2,400 gold worth of diamonds in order to raise dead your character. So why the spell doesn't make sense.
It's punishing people for caring about their characters. If you flip it, if you go, it's making death meaningful is one way, and the other way is punish people for liking their characters. And the ritual point is so Runesmith is so the people talking about the ritual in the chat.
Yeah, they're talking about the resurrect. Yeah, they're talking about the resurrect ritual, right?
Yeah, which is an excellent point. And the ritual is really cool. I actually really like it. I like the idea that's in the system.
I do too. Again, hey, Pathfinder 2 is like, you know, it'd be really cool if we had things that weren't spells, but did things that like spells, and they use our skill system, which is very underutilized. And then they made this system, and then they never developed it, and they never took it any further. Yeah.
The 5th level ritual, 1 level lower.
Right. And cheaper.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know what's going on there.
So what's the heightened? There's a heightened there, right?
Yeah, there's a heightened. Yeah, again, there's a level restriction here, obviously. But I would like to point out, though, with that resurrect spell, you better watch out. You're down a party member. You critically fail that sumbitch, you got to fight. They turn into an undead, and you got to fight them. I'm just saying, like,
that's pretty cool.
Things can go from. They love their critical failures in this edition, and boy, you know they don't mess around with this. So anyways, it's
so if essentially what I'm saying is if the resurrection spell was 2 actions, that'd be baller, and I would say A.
You mean Raised Dead?
Yeah, Ray's dead.
Yeah, but it's 10 minutes.
That'd be fucking cool. Yeah, no,
Granted,
10 minutes. So why didn't you just do the ritual instead?
Well,
What
the
fuck were you even doing?
ritual takes a day. But I mean, like, is anybody playing their character? Hey, your sorcerer came back. You're clumsy 8.
Yeah.
You're enfeebled 8. You have no spell slots. All right, I'm good to go.
What the fuck are we doing?
I hate to say this. I think Ray's Dead is like an F.
Especially because the ritual exists. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, technically again, D because of your stupid rules.
No, but this is a case where this spell should be designed to encourage people to keep playing the same character. It's actually not doing what it's supposed to do. It is actually doing the opposite. It's saying, I'm going to punish you for keeping your character. I'm going to reward you for making another one.
I'm wondering, side point, I don't have to spend longer. I'm wondering if there is a way to reward people for wanting to keep the character.
Of course there is.
Dies.
You give them non-diegetic bonuses through the game. So
so they're keeping those bonuses. They want to keep those cool bonuses.
In other words, making a level 11 character at level 11 is worse than having played a character from 1 to 11 and gaining all sorts of cool DM neato abilities. And it's like, you just had to be there, man. Like, oh, don't I get that ability? No, you missed that session. You're not there. And so a level 11 character, we talked about this was my secret GM heresy, right, Vin, from a very long time ago? Yeah. A level 20 character that went through the trenches of a 1 to 20 campaign, in my opinion, should be light years more powerful than a level 20 character that you just made today. Because you don't have all of those fun little bonuses. Yeah.
I'm with you.
All right.
Anything else from the chat?
I don't think
S++ for GM. Oh, that's a fair point.
S++, being able to resurrect your BBEGs for plot twists or other important NPCs like King of Wealthy Country. It also could be weird because now you're starting to put this concept into your game that like Ray's Dead exists. And you're like, wouldn't this radically alter everything that we know about?
That's uncommon, Derek. You see? So it's self-solving.
Yeah, so
only the evil guys get it.
Well, but even then, it'd just be like, they just keep. I mean, because all these evil characters are always part of some massive organization.
Wouldn't that be fun if the final dungeon is like every boss you fought the entire campaign, all just resurrected and given new gear?
Yeah, I mean, they're like, we've been leveling up too. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, because like
I don't mind it,
right? Because like the level like the first villain of the first adventure, who's like level 4 or 5, right? They're always working for some like awesome level 20 villain. Whereas the PCs are scrubs. They have nobody. They're like, well, shit. How come we don't? Evil's way better organized than we ever did, right? Like, I've got a life insurance policy with Evil Company. Yeah. If I die,
Evil Inc. has
Evil,
all of the HR.
Oh yeah, right. You should see the insurance. I got nice Raised Dead coverage. Life insurance means something very different in a game with Raised Dead, right? Anyways, all right. Repulsion. Another classic spell.
I would say that I think that's a valid argument to have like a GMC. Only low. It's C because
all right.
It is a kind of cheap trick.
So I will go. It's kind of cheap. Yeah, I agree. It can potentially steal some player thunder. So I'm going to say Raised Dead F player GMC. All right. So Repulsion is our next spell. It's a 2-action spell. It's an emanation up to 40 feet from you. Will save 1 minute. Everybody gets it except for Primal. I don't know how they decide these things sometimes. It has the mental.
Yeah, so, I think mental stuff doesn't go primal, right? Most of the time.
You manifest an aura that keeps a creature from approaching you. When you cast a spell, you make the area any radius you choose. A creature must attempt a will save if it's within the area when you cast the spell or as soon as it enters the effect. Once a creature has attempted the save, it uses that result for the rest of that casting, which is 1 minute. Any restrictions on a creature's movement apply only if it voluntarily moves towards you. For example, if you move closer to the creature, then it doesn't need to move away. If it makes that will save, if it critically succeeds, it's fine. If it succeeds, it treats each square moving closer to you as difficult terrain, and if it fails, it cannot move closer toward you within that area that you set. Now, keep in mind this is any creature. It's your allies.
Oh, shut up. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
So, heal me.
Oh, no.
I can't.
Oh, no.
Fighter, I've been attacked by the monster. Get over here. I found my will save. Shit.
It's like, oh, no, they penetrate the front lines. The back here with the monsters. Oh,
we're screwed. The monster saves are too high and the party sucks. They can't possibly beat my DC. But the monsters had no problem powering through my will save.
Oof.
This is again one of those spells where I go, you could walk towards your allies, but I'm imagining a scenario where like I'm here, the big scary monster comes and goes, I'm gonna eat you, and I go, haha, make a will save. He goes, critic succeed. You're like, oh shit, and then he comes in there and he's tearing me apart, and now it's my turn, and it's the fighter's turn. I'm like, fighter, get over here, do something. The fighter's I can't, will save. I fail.
Oh, it's all difficult terrain. Like it's not like they have like an easy way to get to you.
Right. If they critically succeed, it's not affected.
Yeah, but
is this
they have to critically succeed?
Is this a great GM spell, but only when the PCs cast it? That's what the GM's like. Yes. This is interesting. By the way, I do want to say, Needham said, yes, the everyone has raised dead for when you want to play medieval cyberpunk, where the wealthy elite is truly mortal. This is what I talk about when we say if you took D&D or Pathfinder and you like actually made it the way it would be based on the way things work, yes, you would have that. People would be like casting clones, they would live forever, they'd be downloading their brains into like new bodies. It'd be awesome. Anyways, I'm gonna put it this way. Have you ever cast a spell? Would you ever cast a spell?
All right. Until I realized that the effects party members, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. No, I would never cast a spell.
I would never cast a spell either. I could, if the spell only targeted enemies or whoever,
great.
It'd be great.
There's already a spell like that, right? It's like one of the cleric ones, like Sanctuary. It's not Sanctuary, but it's similar to that. It's like enemies can't approach you. Yeah.
Right. But obviously this is, arcane occult. And I love the idea, right, of like this mental ward of they can't bear to get near you.
Yeah.
If it was if it was enemies, that'd be awesome. What a great spell to cast in the first round of fight, or like we said before, maybe going into the fight, and then all the, because melee monsters are usually the ones that you don't want eating up your caster. And what a cool way to deal with them. And at least you get that will save. And unless they critically succeed, at least it's going to probably maybe eat up a whole turn because they're going to have to difficult terrain through it 40 feet. And if they fail, they're just shit out of luck. And they don't get to recheck. Yeah. It's not like each check each turn. It's
that's why we could have been really high rank because of the lack of recheck.
So I'm going to give this spell a D.
Yeah, I think D or C is kind of where I'm landing on it.
I'm going to actually give it a C because I think the effect is still so good.
Yeah.
I think this spell could have been
and you can move. So if you're hasted, for example, like this isn't too big a problem for your party.
Oh, Brothless says if it targeted enemies, it would be a B. No doubt. I think it'd be an A or an S. I think the spell would be, I think the spell would be very, very, very good. So for it going down that far to C shows you how much of a pain in the ass this is. Because not only does this, it doesn't even just, save me, but it also just fucks with your party's ability to move. And if it was only enemies.
It also makes the GM have to like worry about, all right, so I'm moving this way. Is that towards? Or is this towards?
Right. It just becomes this nightmare of just trying to juggle everything. And it's just crazy. Righteous Might. This is the Cleric Polymorph spell. 2 actions, divine only. It's a battle form. But your AC is so much worse than if you'd become a devil or a demon. You get less temporary hit points. You get less resistance against physical damage. And your attack bonus is lower. Oh, and you're only medium. The devil and demon form are large.
We never addressed the spellcasting thing in the end, did we?
We did not. By the way, you have hands in this battle form and you can manipulate actions.
So you can cast spells, right? Fuck you.
No, I said that my rules were...
I'm with you. I'm saying fuck you to chat. Okay. I wasn't there. This nonsense was allowed to continue. But
for me, it's... If a spellcaster can cast a spell and then have the same ACs and as a champion and then still cast all their spells,
that's just 3.5 druid. So if you like it,
right?
Go for
That
it,
is 3.5 druid. I agree. Yeah. And that's not what Pathfinder 2 is trying to do. And I don't always love that, but I at least respect it. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying that this spell compared to demon, daemon, devil form is just flat out worse.
Oh yeah, this is resistance 3 against physical damage.
It's just not even. You're just not even. You don't even get reach. And you can't speak. You form the righteous form of your deity, and you can't even talk? Oh, God. All right, well, C. Maybe D.
Yep.
I think D. D?
D. All right. I have no opinions about this.
Also, this is divine only. And while, your sorcerer who loves to throw out magic missiles and fireballs, when they go, hey, guys, I want to go tear it up a little bit this fight. I'm going to go full demon, like an anime character. And I'm going to go in there. And, you're like, okay, Vin, have your fun. When the cleric goes, hey, guys, I can't cast spells this fight. You go, fuck you, dude.
We need you.
I just died. I can breath of life you. No, I'm sorry, you can't. Well, I'll AoE heal the part. No, I'm sorry, you can't. Damn it.
And a war priest who's using things like, I forget what it's called, but when you smite, when
you can't harm.
Do that.
You can't do that. Right. So you can't even do that.
And it has no, I was just checking, it has no fly speed. Half the other ones gave you fly speed.
They gave you alternate movement thing. Or some of the devils gave you plus grab. Yeah. Right, which is no athletics check. You just hit and then you send a second action and now they're grabbed. Right, that's great.
D.
The total entropy says, "Lol, that's true." This is F. This is worse than not casting it. It would just be better for you to go pass.
Okay, I don't mind that. Because you're not your deity. It fails to do what it says it does. You don't turn into anything like your deity.
Yeah, you just nothing like total. All right, Savo Ray says F as well. All right, I'm fine giving it F. And by the way, I played a cleric through these levels as a little halfling cleric. Like the idea of me kind of like, hey, cool, maybe I'll get a chance to mix it up and be. I was like, oh wow, this is horrible. Pass. Just did not do anything. All right, scintillating safeguard. Sorry, scintillating safeguard. It's a reaction with a 30-foot range. An effect would deal physical. Oh, it's a somatic, by the way, only. So, you could be silenced and cast this. An effect would deal physical or energy damage to you or a creature in range. Targets up to 5 willing creatures who would have been harmed by the effect within 30 feet. A scintillating, sparkling magical barrier envelops each target, shielding them. Choose one type of physical or energy damage that the triggering effect deals. Each target gains resistance 10 against that damage effect. This is only against the initial damage. So, party gets hit by a fireball. You cast this, everybody gets fire resist 10.
Yeah, because you guys went over one of my favorite spells before, which was, I think it was Shadow
one. Yeah, I actually, my fighter, being a sorcerer, a cult sorcerer, has that spell. It has it as a
+2 levels.
Yeah,
on the counteract. It's fantastic.
It's +2 on the counteract, which means it's actually effective. And changing half of it into shadow energy was really badass. This spell doesn't seem quite as good, but it's still pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is, so it is a reaction. There's very few of those.
Correct.
30 feet kind of hurts it to some degree.
It does, but but targeting up to 5 people instead of the effect, and it's 10 against any damage effect, so it could be physical damage. I mean, obviously, the best case scenario is when you're using this against the thing. I agree though with Ruinsmith. The reason it's not B for me is the heighten is a typo. That has to be a typo. The heighten is +1.
I don't think it is.
Of course it's not. But what the hell? What the hell? I mean, for starters, if your characters care at all about their energy resistances, they're going to have natural energy resistance of 10 at this level, or starting 100%. To get 10s. They might not have it against every energy type yet, but
So yeah, that resistance tracks with the average resistance for enemies at every level. Roughly, it's a couple bit lower.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is supposed to go up by 1.
Yeah, I know. I know that it's supposed to. It's still horrifying. So I don't know.
C? Okay, I'm happy with C.
It's AoE. It's cool. It's a reaction. Those are always great for casters to get, and it's on a bunch of different people's lists. So I really like it. Yeah. Scrying. Crystal Ball does this, but you can cast it too. It's uncommon because, God forbid, you know what's going on in your campaign. It's a 10-minute casting. That range is planetary. Saving throw is will. The duration is sustained, but up to 10 minutes. You magically spy on a creature. It works like scrying, except the image you receive is less precise, insufficient for teleport. And instead of creating an eye that manifests instead of creating an eye in a set location within 500 feet, you instead create an eye that manifests just above the target. You could choose a target either by name, or by touching one of its possessions, or by touching a piece of its body. Okay, Pathfinder. If you haven't met the target in person, Scrying's DC is 2 lower, and if you are unaware of their identity at all, because, for example, if you want to use this to solve a murder mystery, the DC is 10 lower. And then they get to make a will save. And
they get the check. Yeah.
If they crit, they're immune. They fails and they're immune for a week. They even kind of get an idea of who you were trying to scry on them. If they succeed, they just fails and they're immune for a day. If they fail, you get to spy on them. If they critically fail, it succeeds and it will follow them around if they're moving around. I like that. I think the spell's cool.
Yeah, it's the DC is what bugs me. It's.
I mean, obviously, they don't want you to be able to use it to do. You mean the fact that they get a will save?
No, the will saves. Well, it's weird but secret checks is a different discussion.
Sure.
The main thing is, I would want this. If my players had this, I would want them to cast this, and I want it to succeed as well. At least get to the success condition.
Yep.
When you're getting to the DCs being 10 lower, right? That means that's just an automatic cost.
But that is only if you are unaware of their identity at all. Right, so you find a cloak at the scene and you go, I'm going to scry on this cloak's owner. I have no idea who it is. I mean, they're trying.
That'd be the cool time to do it. That'd be cool. Because what's the success? Okay, the success condition is strong. So like,
I mean,
I'm
range
sorry,
planetary.
Yeah. Okay, I can. So you're saying that if you let them do it on a cloak, it would break too many things, so it's fine.
It's not even about breaking. I just think I do agree that is somewhat uninteresting, right? Yeah. Now, if I was playing a game that wasn't Pathfinder 2, a Fate game or Powered by the Apocalypse game, I might make the DC much lower, but then you just get a vision.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
you get a small...
you get a sense. Snippet. You see dark mountains, you hear the ringing of anvils, fires being stoked, you see a dark form and you see a shadowy image of bat-like wings emerging from, and then the spell ends, right? Like that would be what you get on a failure.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm thinking with this, but you're right, it has very clear mechanical
outcomes. Things, right? But if we were playing anything else, that's what I think. Or like if we're familiar with Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, one could argue that the Palantir is like a scrying, like a crystal ball. Aragorn uses it at the end of Return of the King to sort of challenge Sauron. And he contacts them, and he's able to bait him into attacking him at the Black Gate. But from a mechanical perspective, Aragorn fails that check because Sauron shows him a vision of Arwen dying and of him failing and everything calling to ruin, and Aragorn's shook as hell. And if we were playing some sort of other variant system, like Aragorn might have just taken a bunch of mental damage, or maybe he's stupefied or something in Pathfinder 2 terms because
sand decreased.
His sanity decreased because of the powerful image. But he still kind of it still worked. It wasn't like, it just, I
think that's my problem with the success condition on these, of course, or the enemy success condition, is because it gives you nothing.
Yes, correct. In fact, if the success condition had what the critical success condition has, but it's you that gain the glimpse of where it might be, that would actually be pretty cool. So
that'd be cool.
But it's still pretty cool, powerful effect for me. Yeah. And I like it at C.
All right.
I think it's good. I think you're going to be happy with it. All right. I have noticed that there have been less and less scrolls as we've gotten up higher level. I just feel like people haven't been like, that should be a scroll. Okay, I hate the spell, and I think other people liked it. Spell rack. It's
I remember hating this spell. For some
reason, it's 2 actions, everything but primal. You cause any spells cast on the target to spill out their energy in harmful surges. They must attempt a will save. If they critically succeed, they're completely unaffected. If they succeed, whenever the target becomes affected by a spell with a duration, they take 2d12 persistent force damage. Every time it takes persistent force damage from spell rack, it reduces the remaining duration of spells affecting it by 1 round. Only a successful Arcana check against your spell DC can help the target recover from the persistent damage. The curse and the persistent damage end on their own after 1 minute. On a failure, the curse and persistent damage do not end on their own. You have to make the check. And at a critical failure, it's 4d12 damage. Here's why I hate this spell. It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything.
You cast a spell, and absolutely nothing happens. Now, if they have a spell that has a duration, then they take 2d12 persistent force damage. So, also you have to track it, and you have to subtract 1 round from every spell's duration.
All right. So it's the best case scenario. You're talking about things versus 1 minute long spells. So it needs 7 rounds to even have any effect.
Yeah.
Because this.
I mean, Anthony says useful against enemies with buffs, I guess. Is it though?
Yeah. Because they have lasts for a minute, right? So you're waiting 6 rounds as the spell rack is what? Oh, I guess it's doubling the rate at which they fall. So you're waiting 4 rounds as the spell rack goes down before it even does anything.
Correct. But again, it's like, okay, my 10 minutes, my slow, I cast slow on them, and now slow is going to last 5 rounds instead of 10 rounds, but they're going to take 2d12 points of damage around. That's what I want out of my level 6 spell? That seems horrible.
Yeah. Okay. So unless the chat has something crazy to say, because I can't really see many ways to use this that wouldn't just annoy me. I'd give it a C because it does something.
I think it does. I think it's a D. I think it does something, and it does it very badly.
Because some campaigns, combats do tend to go to 4 to 6. So I could see someone casting this in the first turn or first round, but it's against it's a will saving throw. No, D. It's a will saving throw.
Yeah.
Against an enemy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the person you cast against is probably a caster who has high will.
Okay, like this would be way cooler, right? You cast the spell, and then you choose an effect on them. Could be a buff. It could be a debuff. You blow the spell up. And for each round that's remaining in the duration of the spell, they take 2d12 points of force damage as the spell cataclysmically explodes.
Yeah.
Well, that's fucking awesome.
So it was one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Why wouldn't we do that? And you're like, hey, somebody cast a shitty debuff on them. I'll blow it up. Like it doesn't matter, right? But at the same time, or they cast a sweet buff spell and they played right into our hands. And now I'm going to blow it up and they're going to take 20 d12 force damage or something, and they'll be dispelled. Like,
it's like dispel plus. Say damaging dispel. That'd be
damaging dispel. That would be awesome. Also, it's called spell rack, so that would seem awesome. But my main thing is, and this is like a Magic the Gathering concept, the spell by itself does nothing, and that alone is just reason for me to just say, like, I don't know,
thanks.
F.
D. Yeah.
It doesn't do anything.
It does do something.
All right. But no, it doesn't. By itself, it does nothing.
Because even on a success, they do still.
But if they don't have a spell that has a duration on them, this spell does nothing. I mean, think about
and you wouldn't cast it unless they had it.
By the way, and in my games, whenever an enemy has a spell on them, it's usually a debuff, and I put it there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The fact that it undoes your own debuffs,
right?
Okay. Yeah. I can kind of get.
I mean, because how many creatures really have a buff? Spellcasters.
Very few. Yeah. Very.
And they have usually an extreme will save.
Yeah. Will save. Yeah.
So I think it's an F.
All right.
Very clear.
Like we argue between.
By the way, this is an example of where the concept of the spell.
It's cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And you mentioned like the Guild Wars, the Mesmer.
Mm-hmm.
EQ EverQuest had a kind of a similar spell. Awesome. But yeah. I also hate Spirit Blast. This is the shitty DD, but you kind of have to I guess respect the fact that it's divine and occult. It's 2 actions, fort, save, force. So that's not nothing. You concentrate ethereal energy and blast a creature's spirit, doing 16d6 force damage. And because it affects a spirit, you can damage a target projecting its consciousness, such as project image or magic jar or possessed creature by like a ghost. Very short range, single target DD. It is force, which I give a thumbs up to. It's a very cool, arguably probably the best damage type in the game.
I like the spell. It's all right. Like a 30-foot hurts it. Fortitude save hurts it.
Yeah. I mean, 16-6 is at least not lower than what Kona Cold's doing.
It's 4 higher than Fireball.
Now, I'm not going to say that I would give this spell a D or something. I just think it's fine. I think it's just a C.
Yeah. I can see C. No area.
Now, does the fact that it's occult and divine do anything for you? Does that make it better? Because those.
See, the thing is, okay.
I mean, because occult gets magic missile, so let's just call that.
Even beyond that, like this entire time we've been doing these spell things, I've had to remind myself every day that we're not rating things based on opportunity cost, because based on opportunity cost, what an occult person should be doing is casting synaptic fucking pulse every fucking round, right? but that said, yes, if just by itself, maybe divine occult puts it up to a B.
Yeah,
because divine. Yeah.
I mean, if you want that effect in that spell. Yeah. So you don't get that. It's reason. I mean, I think the range kills it for me, but it is force.
Yeah.
But
range is that 30 feet's most of Pathfinder combat.
I mean, that's to be clear. AP. If you're playing an AP, that might as well be to the moon, right? Yeah. Range 30 feet might as well be range planetary. It really might as well be. I mean, as long as you still had line of effect and line of sight restrictions, it could be range planetary, and it really wouldn't make a difference in most instances.
And force is cool. Anyway.
All right, so Stone Tell is our next one, just a basic divine primal earth. And of course, it's giving you information, so it's uncommon. It's 10 minutes. You can ask questions of stone. It's not intelligent, and the personality depends on the stone. Pathfinder 2 is easy to play. What is the personality of granite? As well as the type of structure it's a part of. A stone's perspective, perception, and knowledge give it a worldwide view, different enough from a human's that it doesn't consider some details important. Stones can answer most questions about creatures that touched them in the past and what is concealed beneath or behind them. No check. It just works. 10 minutes. Talk to the stone. And you know what? If you cast this spell, your GM is going to have to become a better GM. I love this spell.
I like it. Yeah. It
works.
All right. Now we were talking about Scry before. This is closer to what I want.
Yeah. Like this is. Yeah. It's a mechanical spell, but it has a very narrative effect. And the GM can use the spell and go, awesome. This is the perfect way for me to be able to exposition dump on my players and make sure that they know what is going on in this campaign. I love this spell. I think this spell is great. Is it scrollable or wandable? Is this an everyday wear type of spell?
All right. So first of all, we're talking about Divine Primal.
It's Divine Primal, but I mean, Primal's a good list.
No, what I'm saying is, for druids and clerics, they can prepare this whenever. So that's an argument against it being a scroll.
Correct.
But for sorcerers specifically and bards, actually, it's not a cult. So it's sorcerers specifically, and I guess oracles. Yeah, they could scroll it.
Right.
That's not terrible.
But they're terrible, so it doesn't really count. I mean, here's the thing. Like, as a druid or whatever, I would just have one of these in my back pocket as a scroll anyways. Like, you know, I think this is a scroll spell. Me personally.
Yeah, I could see it being both. Like, this is especially for druids and clerics, it could definitely be something you prepare.
So maybe like, is it like an A scroll, a B?
Yeah, prep? I like that. It's not bad. Like, A scroll is probably pushing it because it has to be on stone, right?
It does. But I mean, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, like, I think you're going to be on stone. I don't know that. It's natural.
What's the radius?
It's natural, or it's not. It's just you ask questions from the stone.
You ask questions and receive answers from natural or work stone.
Yes.
While stone
so it could be a castle. It could be a dungeon. It could be a crypt.
Wait, so you let someone target a castle?
Yeah. Hey, castle, what's up? Oh yeah.
That sounds broken.
There's plenty.
I like it.
There's plenty of stone around. I like it. Of all the places in the game, they won't let Fireball burn paper and rope, but Stone Tell just goes, hey, fucking talk to the castle. I target Golarion. Hey, core of
the planet.
I talk to the planet. Awesome. I mean, that's great. I like ICANN. Place a pebble for recon. Put a stone in the room. Get the hell out. Come back later. Pick it up. What'd you see, buddy?
Okay, definitely A or S.
Yeah,
I mean, it depends how generous you want to be.
All right, I like scroll A. We'll stick there. All right, I think it's cool. By the way, that's how I would like to see more spells work. Also, that spell should be a ritual, not a spell. All right,
agreed. 10 minutes cost time.
Stone to flesh. Nothing like turning a dungeon wall, the aforementioned rock wall. Nothing like turning it into a wall of rubbery flesh. This targets a petrified creature, which is how you would think the spell would work, but it also just targets a human-sized stone object. And you can restore a petrified creature to its normal shape or a stone object into an inert mass of flesh. Body horror much?
Someone put that in just for the lulz. That's the reason they added that second half of that shit. I mean, I guess you could cook it.
Oh, that's a great question. Wait, there's flesh to stone. So if you turn all right, NPC, you turn them to stone, then you stone tell them, hey, tell me everything you know. There's no save on this spell. That you just broke the campaign, boys. That one you don't get a thing. Yes, the flesh. Come to my flesh castle. I'm going to make a castle out of stone because that's how you have to make it. And then there's no duration on this. It's infinite. So I then turn my entire castle into flesh.
Well, this one has to be a human-sized object.
Right. So. Goblins and gnomes are out of the question. I don't know how to rate this spell. How often do you get I mean, it's a scroll, right?
All right. Yeah. So in a campaign, if I, as a GM, if I had the petrification thing, I'd either go one of two ways. Either I'm doing it there as a fuck you and they die, or and you need something like this, or remove curse to remove it, or there's probably going to be something else in the puzzle to remove the stone condition. So that's how they could kind of employ it in a campaign. So stone to flesh coming up, and again, it's divine primal, so they can prepare it when they need it.
But when they, I just said scroll C.
Yeah. Okay.
I just feel like petrification is so rare.
So rare.
Yeah, it's very rare. And like the game, and you know, all that shit's on in cap now and everything. It's really hard to get.
I know save. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Tangling Creepers is another big plant spell, primal only. They're like, hey, remember that spell that we had, Nature's Reprisal, which was really long range and had a huge burst at level 6? How about we give you another one? It's Tangling Creepers. Guess what? It's 3 actions. It's a 500-foot range, and it's a 40-foot burst. What the hell, Paizo?
No, but this is half the burst, you see, and duration 10 minutes.
All right, here's what happens. Guess what? Any creature moving on the land or climbing or swimming within the creepers takes a -10 circumstance penalty to its speed. So you just cast both of these spells. Everything is difficult terrain. Everything is greater difficult terrain. Wait. Check this out. Dense twitching creepers sprout from every surface and fill the body of water. Flat, featureless ground. You're in the dungeon. You're in hell. I cast Tangling Creepers. Boom. Twitching creepers sprout from every surface. Those are plants. Then I cast Nature's Reprisal. Now everything is greater difficult terrain, and it doesn't affect my allies, and everything has a -10 foot speed penalty, and everything's greater difficult terrain, and they're taking poison damage for every step they take. There you go. Boom.
Is that how you reckon it's supposed to work?
No, but that's how I would make it work.
I mean,
once per round, you can make a vine lash from any square, which has to concentrate as a single action, 15-foot reach. Make a melee spell attack on a target. On a success, it pulls it into the creepers and makes it immobilized for 1 round or until the creature escapes against your DC, whichever comes first.
So you know, your description was one of the first things I thought of as well, and it's also why they specifically made it -10-foot circumstance penalty speeds instead of difficult terrain.
Right. But here's the thing. Tangling Creepers is in the core rulebook. Nature's Reprisal, I think, was in Psalm. Yep. It's in Psalm. And you know what that tells me? It tells me they didn't plan this. They just had their internal testing document. And they're like, well, level 6 feels like the appropriate level for like a big range plant spell from Druid. And whoever wrote Secrets of Magic, sorry, Mark, didn't know that spell was already in the core rulebook. Because you know why they didn't know that spell was in the core rulebook? Because this spell wasn't in Pathfinder 1. And everybody working at Paizo on Pathfinder 2 is like me, and they just play Pathfinder 1, and they just assume everything is the same. And so they never had this spell in Pathfinder 1 because you just had Entangle, and it was busted. And so they go, oh, we should make a spell like that for Secrets of Magic, not knowing that it was already in the core rulebook the entire time.
A worse version of it.
It is worse. So I love the range, I love the burst, but this one's more like a C.
Yeah.
Teleport.
It's black tentacles, but with more range. Anyway.
Teleport, uncommon because getting somewhere would be problematic. You and up to 4 creatures touched, so enough for a party. But Ben, your party gets fucked because if you have, if you have more than 5 friends, that's too many friends.
I really broke it for me. And it's creatures, so they're horses. Like I straight house ruled this one. I was like, "Fuck you." This.
By
is
the way,
bullshit.
and as you heighten teleport, it doesn't. You don't get more creatures. It's just always that.
Yeah.
But
and it's you and so if one person probably can target teleport, they can't go and then send one group and send another group.
I will say that the initial version at level 6 is pretty weak. 100 miles, come on. I mean, that's not really anything. I mean, it's cool, but
I mean, I don't know what is that even? Like, is that either infinite or not enough?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is like once you get to 7th, which is only a level higher, and it's 1,000 miles. Okay, now we're talking about continents, right?
Yeah.
Like that is fundamentally shifting the way that your party can respond to and engage threats. And then you start talking about planetary and solar system and galaxy.
But don't most camps happen over like a city or two?
Depends. I mean, Rise of the Rune Lords just kind of goes all over Varesia.
It does.
It's more than 100 miles, but for the most part, and even then, you do appear 1% off. So it's not like you can literally teleport into like the villain's sanctuary, right?
Yeah. That was intentional. I like.
I mean, but the spell is ridiculous, right? It's absolutely busted.
Well, part of me wanted to say, do we even need to talk about teleport? Because I think everyone knows. About teleport. Yeah.
Right. It's an interesting way. It's almost like it exists. Because here's the thing, teleport doesn't do anything.
Especially because you missed the target. So you're within 1%.
Well, what I'm trying to say is like, look, let's be real here. Unless you're playing with like Smith or Ben or like maybe me. If you're level 9 and you don't have access to teleport, okay, and you need to travel 100 miles, which will take you like 3 or 4 or 5 days, then the ritual that will destroy the world is happening in a week. But if you're level 11 and you have teleport and you can get there in 10 minutes, the ritual is happening tonight.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Like it's like like that's just the way it works. Also, Savo Ray, teleport should be a ritual. Yes, it should. Yes, it should be.
Yeah.
But it's such a absurdly powerful effect that not only, and the other thing that I think does actually make a mechanical difference, maybe not with the 100-mile ones, but definitely with the 1,000-mile one. We're out in the middle of nowhere. We're not playing automatic bonus progression. God help us. I need runes and something to spend my money on. Okay, we teleport back to Magnamar. We sell all of our gear, or we go to Absalom, and the city of the center of the world, which is level 20, and I sell all my gear and I buy the things that I actually need to play the game. And then we can teleport back to our adventure. So I'm going to put it at S tier because it's just whatever. But it's like, it's a weird spell in that it's just so powerful and so ubiquitous. It almost doesn't.
For me, it's a very much an S with an asterisk. Like as a GM, like for GMs out there, I would point out to them that it's 4 creatures. You will want to house rule it probably. Unless you don't want them to use it, which is a different decision.
Right. It is uncommon. So some GMs are like, no, walk. All right. Temporal Ward is from Strength of Thousands. It's rare, 3 actions, touch, and you touch a doorway. Oh, a puppy.
Yep.
You touch a doorway. The doorway makes a will save. No, apparently the creature makes a will save. It lasts 10 minutes. Oh, God. It's a temporal trap that rewinds the personal timeline of creatures that try to open it. Anyone trying to open the doorway or container must make a will save with the following results. You could set a password. Anyone who tries to open the target container or pass through the doorway without speaking the password has to make a save. The ward vanishes once the spell's duration ends, but it can be removed before then as if it were a magical trap. It lasts 10 minutes, by the way. Using both your DC for the perception check to notice it and for the thievery check to disable it. Everyone has to be an expert in order to be able to see and disable it. You can dismiss it. And the number of temporal wards you can have active at one time is equal to your spellcasting modifier. That's an interesting bit of rules text. I don't think we've really seen that before. So you can have, if you have a +6 int or +6 charisma, you can have 6 of them. All right. If they critically succeed, they're fine. If they succeed, they get a brief moment of deja vu and they're convinced they already opened the door, and so they have to use an extra action. If they fail, they're thrown backwards through time. The action or activity that they use to open the door or container is wasted, and then they are returned to the position that they were located at the start of their turn, and then their turn ends. And if they critically fail, it's the same, but they also get confused for a minute because they're like, what the fuck, mate? So there you go. And if you heighten it all the way to level 10, It does have an unlimited duration until it is counteracted, dismissed, or disarmed. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're playing a sandboxy game, this could be broken.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty powerful. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, the level 10 version obviously awesome because I mean, obviously with 10 minutes, you're not like defending anything really with this. This is more of like you said, like a combat of war type of situation where you're setting something up. Damien says, just cast slow. There is something to be said about that. I mean, I think
there's no save. Oh no, it's will saving.
It's a will save. I don't know. I mean, it's 3 actions to cast, so you're not really casting this in combat. It's 10 minutes.
It's rare.
The idea here is that you are setting up a doorway, and as people come through it giving you time or something like that.
You're either luring people or you've snuck in and someone's coming.
I'm gonna give it a B. I think this spell's cool. I think it does what it does, and it's pretty cool. And there's no reason to spend much more time on that. All right, True Seeing kind of got nerfed in this edition.
Yeah, a lot.
Number 1,
I mean,
it lasts 10
the fact
minutes.
that 6th level means it kind of almost auto works against the lower level invisibilities.
Yes. So the big difference here is, yes, we do have to, now we are at the point in the game where things start to become a little wonky because you have to understand how counteract check works. But you have number 1, it's 10 minutes. Number 2, it's 60 feet. So that's nerfs from big problems from what we used to have in Pathfinder 1. But they also make a secret counteract check against any illusion or transmutation in the area, but only for the purpose of determining whether you can see through it. For instance, if the check succeeds against a polymorph spell, you can see that they're not that, but you don't end it. Now, here's the distinction. All these really great lower level illusion spells, most people are not casting them at level 8. They're casting invisibility at 4, which is lower level, which means that even if you fail the counteract check against a creature that is higher level, you might fail against their DC, but if you fail a counteract check with a True Seeing, which is 6, against a spell, which is 4, you still succeed.
Yes, that is correct.
And it's also a great example of where the term counteract check is horrible because you're not actually counteracting it. So you're not dispelling it. But it is very powerful. Invisibility is very, very powerful. And, I would hate to say this, but like if a smart party is capable of casting 4th level invisibility, it kind of, if a monster doesn't have this,
they're just done.
I mean, they're just kind of dead, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's one of those cute things. So it's like, once you get to level 12, a lot of monsters just having automatic.
They start having it automatically. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, like I think True Seeing is pretty good. It's very situational. It's very good. I mean, the range makes me annoyed at it, but it's still a good spell.
I agree.
It's just it's not an S or anything, but it's like
I think it's
I could see it being a wand, a pretty good wand.
It's 10 minutes though. I don't like that the wand implies that I'm going to have to use an extra action to pull it out, and that's not what I want.
Well, it's 10. Wouldn't you be only like walking into a dungeon and then casting it?
Yeah, but then if I'm going to have it up like that, aren't I going to have it up all the time? I don't know. It's kind of a weird,
but the duration annoys me as well. Let's be clear.
No, the duration
sucks.
The 10 minutes sucks. I hate the 10-minute duration.
Yeah.
For me, it's weird because the 10-minute duration, Needham Wolven says, the 10-minute annoys me. It works, but man, here's the problem with the 10-minute duration. All right. In theory, this is what I think they were going for with the 10-minute duration. They wanted to set up a situation where it says you can cast this spell and then you can get into a fight. And if you don't recover your focus points or use treat wounds, then the spell basically gets to keep lasting. And the idea would be that you could like raffle stomp the whole dungeon in
10 minutes,
in like 8 minutes. And given the way that speeds work in Pathfinder 2, a typical fight's going to last anywhere from 18 to 24 seconds. Your characters move somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, a football field a minute.
Part 2.
Right?
Yep.
So if you look at a standard size AP map, Abomination Vaults, for example, including combats at every step of the way, I think a party could actually defeat the entire dungeon in under 10 minutes. Like a whole level, or at least a good chunk of a level.
Yeah.
As long as you're not stopping to treat wounds and recover focus points. I just feel like that's not the way anybody plays.
That's not how people don't think about the game that way.
And they shouldn't. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
They thought about it this way.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't think about it that way. So these 10-minute spells end up being 1-minute spells, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
What it comes down to.
And so essentially it's good for like a brief investigation.
Yes.
But not long enough for an actual dungeon.
Correct.
Like not the way people play dungeons.
Correct. Kieran says, why not have it heightened up to 8 hours? I would like to see that.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. Nin says an hour. I'd love to see heighten. Actually, what I'd love to see is like 10's probably too much, but like maybe like it's Pathfinder 2, so whatever. Heighten 8 is like 8 hours, and then like heighten 10 or 9 is like unlimited, until your next daily preparation. And you just,
I would actually, that's fine. I'd love that.
And I think that would be much cooler. But it's still a very powerful effect, and I think at A, I like it. It works. It's automatic. You don't have to use any other actions, and it just works. All right, we got a couple.
A, okay. I would say B.
You're gonna say B? All right. Let me go.
Because the thing is, half the time I'd want true seeing is for dungeons to see through walls and shit. But the dungeon would almost always be at your level or higher, so your counteracts would actually fail.
Well, the dungeon, but the effect of the illusion, like if it's hallucinatory terrain, that's only a level 5 spell. Your true seeing is going to pass.
But it wouldn't be that. It'd be like a hazard, or it'd be a piezo dungeon, which is just everything's DC level anyway. Everything was cast by the gods, and you can't possibly beat it. You have to go the way we want you to. So we got people are voting. I said A or B. We've got 4 spells left. Yeah, I reckon B because of dungeons.
All right, I'm letting the chat vote. But I mean, again, ways Derek would fix Pathfinder 2. I actually like the idea that a party who uses their resources and doesn't have to spend 10 minutes treating wounds should be rewarded mechanically in some way. I actually like that idea a lot.
Yep.
In fact, it would have been fine for me for spells to say have a duration. It says like until you take a rest.
Until you rest. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah.
But they didn't do that because that's very 4th edition-y.
Okay. All right.
So because it's like like we're talking about the game in a very narrative way, in a very like abstract
honestly
way.
That would be how I'd fix it. I'd be between short rests.
Right. Between short rests. And that's what 5th edition does. Well sometimes
fuck you, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean
so
it's
a good idea.
It's a good idea. I don't know what to tell you.
I also use D20s, so whatever.
Yeah, and strength dex in West River. It's like so all right, everybody
what are you doing here?
Everybody agrees with you, Ben. They all said
I'm right.
Yeah, I know. If you're new here, if you're new to the Patreon, if you're new to the channel, you haven't joined the Patreon yet, you should know that we basically have a rule here. It's a cycle. Derek has a problem. Vin suggests a solution. Derek says that's the dumbest idea I ever heard. Vin says, well, you'll see. Derek implements his idea. It doesn't work. Derek realizes Vin was right all along. Derek implements Vin's idea. It works. All right.
Yep.
That's
Vin never gets credit though.
We used to have a term for it, like vinning it up or something. I can't remember. All right, unexpected transposition. It's a reaction. 30-foot will, arcane, occult from Secrets of Magic. You are targeted with an enemy's strike, capital S. Target one creature other than the triggering enemy. When attacked, you attempt to quickly swap your position with that of another creature. A creature that is unwilling makes a will save. Willing creatures automatically fail. If you are successfully switched places with the target, the triggering attack is resolved against the creature as if it had been the original target of the attack. After the swap, both you and the target are temporarily immune to unexpected transposition spells for 1 minute. You automatically switch places if the target is willing. If it's unwilling, it can attempt a will save. Neither of you teleports if it succeeds a save.
I love this spell.
This spell's kind of sweet.
Yeah, I love it.
Hey,
if it didn't have the minute cooldown, I'd love it more.
Yes. But, I mean, how many times for
fight? 30-foot range.
Right. But it's like,
well, it'll be great if you could say if someone really wanted to, they could just be the untouchable mage.
Well, yeah, but I mean, hey, the monster spent its actions closing to me, and now it's attacking me. Hey, barbarian, do you want to be in melee with this guy and
100%.
spend no actions and then take this attack that you really don't care that you're taking anyways? Yes, because you go next to initiative and you'd love to have 3 actions to just wail into this guy. Or if you really want to, big ball it, you go, hey, I'm going to swap with the enemy. And I'm going to make him take my space, and he's going to get attacked with it.
If you against lower level enemies, that's great.
This to me is a solid A.
Yeah, I love this.
And it's a reaction, and it works.
Yeah.
And you have that option, right? And these are good options. Remember, I always say when you give your enemy options, bad. When the player has options, good. If you want to get fun and crazy and kooky with it, swap with an enemy, make them take the attack, whatever. But swapping with one of your big, tough, broody allies who would love to be in melee is a fine use of this spell. So I think
it's a well-balanced spell.
It is actually very well balanced. I actually really, really like this spell. I agree. It's 30-foot range is sad, but that's part of the balance. That's part of the balance. Is how Pathfinder 2 tries to make the game a little bit more tactically interesting. Yada yada yada. Vampiric Exsanguination. Bleh! The Edgelord Cone of Cold. 30-foot cone, so smaller than Cone of Cold. Basic fortitude save, 12d6, so less damage than Cone of Cold. Smaller cone, less damage. It's negative. It only affects living creatures. It also does have the death trait though. So if an enemy goes to 0 hit points from this, it does kill them. Yes, outright.
I forgot that. I didn't know that trait existed. There you go. That's funny.
You didn't know that did that?
No, I've used this spell before, but it has never killed anybody. I killed NPCs, but they would die anyway.
That's my point. It doesn't matter. So, you also get temporary hit points equal to half the damage a single creature takes. But you do get to calculate using the creature that took the most damage, and the temp lasts for 1 minute. So, I have no thoughts on this spell. My instinct is to say C.
Okay. My thought is I hate temporary HP in almost all instances, and I wish it was just healing. Not because it's just hard to track. It's just annoying to track.
It's not more annoying.
I feel like they should stack.
I feel like they should. Personally feel like temporary hit points should stack.
Yeah, from different sources. Like I'm not talking about like the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, like if you have a barbarian temp HP and you should get, I would love that to stack.
Me too. I actually would.
But HP by default does stack by all 4 obvious reasons.
Well, because healing stacks.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like if I'm at 1 hit point or 10 hit points and I have a max of 200 hit points and you heal me for 50 and then you heal me for another 50, not only does that stack, it doesn't go away in a minute. So temporary hit points is already worse than normal healing.
Yeah. I just don't like temp hit point, but that's just if accepting that mechanic as red just existing.
Yes.
I like this spell. Like it's healing yourself is hard to do as a arcane, for example.
Yeah. So I mean, it's it's arcane divine occult. That feels right. I mean, it's a shorter AoE. I mean, I think it's fine. I think B. Yeah, B. B for basically okay.
Cost us a lot.
B for basically okay. Vibrant Padding, yet again, another spell in a long line of spells in which they try to make like a mesmer enchanter effect from EverQuest.
But fucked up by giving them all incap.
They all have incap, 100%. Hey, you know the spells that instantly kill you? Those have incapacitation. Hey, you know the spells that make you like stare at butterflies? They also have incapacitation. They're on the same power level, people. It's illusion, visual, incapacitation.
Slow doesn't. Anyway,
but slow doesn't. Slow has instantly killed more miniature or monsters in my game and Smith's game of Pathfinder 2 that I've played in than any other spell. Like if a right, it's a fort save, right? So if a caster gets crit fails, it gets slow 2. You just take them off the board, right?
Yeah, it's done.
They're just done. Oh, my Lich failed it. He's gone. He casts 1 action magic missile. All right, here we go. 2 actions, 120 foot, 10-foot burst. Sounds very similar to Calm Emotions, which is a good spell, but also has incap. It's a sustained spell for up to a minute. You create a pattern of lights. They're dazzled, just flat out.
No save.
In addition, a creature must attempt a will saving throw when it's inside the pattern. When you cast it, if it enters the pattern, or if it ends its turn within the pattern, or if it uses a seek or interact action on the pattern. A creature currently blinded does not have to make new saving throws. On a success, they're unaffected. Oh, it doesn't distract them. It just blinds them. What?
I'm trying to remember whether dazzle lets you hide.
Yes. Creatures are dazzled, which means everything has concealment, which means you can hide.
That's pretty great.
but it's only when they're in the pattern. So if they leave the pattern.
Well, how long does the dazzle? Oh, while inside the pattern. Okay.
Yeah. Now, granted, they get to make a save, and it's in cap.
Yeah.
But if they fail, they're blinded by the pattern. If they exit the pattern, they get to make a new save. So
I think it's a C.
It's AoE blind.
Yeah, AoE dazzle and blind
but
for maybe a turn or two.
And it's the dazzle's not nothing. I mean, I don't think people appreciate how good a DC was it 6?
5 flat check.
5 DC 5 flat check. It adds up. The pattern is very small. I do agree with that. What'd you say? C?
Yeah, I said C.
Yeah, I say C. I think this spell works. I mean, blind is really powerful. Like, remember how we said being invisible is powerful? Well, when the enemy is blind, you're all invisible.
Yeah, exactly. And they have to move at half speed. It's fucking ridiculous.
They don't. Do they have to move at half speed?
When you're blind, everything is difficult terrain.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And you can't step.
Yep.
Wall of motherfucking force. 2, 3 actions, only a 30-foot range. But 1 minute, you form an invisible wall, 50 feet long, 20 feet high. It has no discernible thickness. It has to be an unbroken space, so you can't go through creatures or objects. It has AC 10, hardness 30, 60 hit points, and is immune to crits and precision damage. It blocks physical effects, and because it's made in force, it also blocks incorporeal and ethereal creatures. Teleportation can go through it, as can visual effects. It is immune to counteracting effects of its level or lower, but it will be automatically destroyed by a disintegrate spell of any level or random artifacts. I mean, if you need a wall that has a lot of hit points, I mean, this is the one.
It's one of those weird things, because Wall of Stone, which you guys covered, was awesome, right? That's one that you can make bridges with.
Wall of Stone was S tier because it's a great wall. You can actually draw it the way you want it. Yeah. You can make patterns and you could use it to make stairs and bridges. It's incredible.
That's like my favorite wall.
Of course. This is not that.
This is not that. But 30 hardness is so high.
And immune to crit and precision. So you're doing regular damage. My 20th level fighter does like 45 to 50 damage a hit. So, that's 9 levels above this spell.
Yeah. And like this is no joke. So our casters uses most of the casters in my party, which I've got 3, I think 4, which use walls, and Wall of Force is a favorite.
Yeah. I agree with Ruinsmith. I mean, in a standard Pathfinder 2 AP type fight, most of the time you could probably use this to cut the encounter in half, deal with the one half of it piecemeal, and then the other half, I don't know, commit seppuku while they're waiting to die, I guess.
It's which is kind of what a wall's half supposed to do.
Correct.
And the invisibility of it can actually be very interesting if used in specific combat as war situations. I'd give it an A.
They have a line of sight, Damien, but they do not have line of effect. That's important to note. I give it an A as well. The fact that you can't just dispel it either, even with like a lucky roll from a dispel magic, it's pretty good. All right, 2 more. Zealous Conviction, a weird spell. Emotion, mental, enchantment, all the traits. It's divine and occult. You get people hyped up. Here's the weird thing about this. Ready? Here we go. It's a buff debuff. It's 30 feet, 10 willing creatures. So allies only. You bypass your target's rational minds, instilling them with unshakable conviction and zeal. They get 12 temporary hit points and a +2 status bonus to will saves versus mental effects, as their faith overrides the signals from their bodies and their minds. That's weird. If you tell a target to do something, it must comply with your request. Though if it would normally find the task repugnant, it can attempt a will save at the end of each turn each round due to the cognitive dissonance. Tell me Paizo writers don't get paid per word without telling me that Paizo writers don't get paid per word. On a success, it ends the spell entirely on itself. What? What is this spell? Needham Wolf says, I think this spell is just Paizo dunking on organized religion.
Well, what does that mean? You give it, Needham?
Yeah.
Would that be a C?
No. This spell is stupid. Number 1, the effect is dumb.
Yep.
And then it has this weird, it's willing, and then they don't get to make a save, and you just get to tell them what to do.
So this would be a GMC, I reckon.
Oh, you know what? Okay. I'm going to put it as a player F GMC, right?
Yeah.
This is the guy gets everybody in town riled up, and they're like, yeah, we want to follow you, cult leader. And he's like, haha, listen to me. Get your temporary hit points. And now you must obey me. And I order you to kill these party of adventurers who are up to no good in our town, I tell you.
Yeah, it's fun for that specific instance, which is exactly how it was designed. I think it's made for that.
In fact, you know what, GMB, it's exactly for that.
Yeah.
AK says, hey guys, you want to get 3rd level false life in exchange for total control of your minds? Come on, it's going to be sweet. Tell them what to do, but they are more likely to avoid it because you just gave them a will bonus, will save bonus. This is how you justify sapient enemies fighting to their death. It's a weird spell, not for players. I agree with that. I actually like it as a GM is perfect for this. All right, the last spell of level 6 is 0, 0, 0 gravity.
All right, before you read it, do you know what the spell does?
No.
Okay, for all GMs out there, if you play with some level of simulationism in your game, consider the uncommon tag very carefully. I allowed it, and I fucking love this spell. But anyway, with that,
all right,
go on.
Arcane Occult, 3 actions, duration sustained for up to a minute. It's a 120-foot range with a 20-foot radius going up 40 feet high in a cylinder. So fireball up cylinder. You negate gravity in that area. Creatures float in place unless they can push off of a surface, which is capital P, capital O, push off. Pushing off is a single action which has the move trait, allowing the creature to move half its speed in a straight line through the area. After pushing off of a surface, the creature continues to move the same distance at the start of each of its turn until it leaves the area or until it pushes off something else. And 0G. A creature pushing off against an untethered object of its size or small. Okay. Explaining Newtonian physics to us in Pathfinder 2 terms. But to go in the same speed, but in opposite directions. Which is not how it worked, by the way. If I pushed into someone half my mass, he would leave at twice my speed, and I would... Anyway. Yep. Creatures who can levitate or fly can use those abilities to move around the area without having to push off of anything. Creatures who can't levitate or fly are usually on the ground, which will then give them a surface. Then they'll start to float away, basically. Mm-hmm. When you can dismiss the spell and everything falls down. Okay. Yeah.
So when you have 2 casts, what you end up having is one group of people casting 0 gravity. One person casts 0 gravity, and the next person casts gravity well above it. And it's pretty fucking like when you're allowing simulation-y bullshit, it ends up with some fucking awesome stuff happening. And I loved it.
I mean, there is no saves. It does just work.
No save. Yep.
No save against gravity.
Yep. Or you have one person cast this, another person has a monk, or with a wrestler archetype, he just throws them into the air, and it just.
Can you throw people into the air?
Does it give? I don't think it actually says what direction you can throw people in.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's like whirling throw is just no save throw.
Right. Now, now, obviously, the best situation here is if you cast this in a place where there aren't ceilings, right? Because when they get to the top of that 40-foot cylinder, right, they would, leave? But then normal gravity
but then they'd fall straight back into the gravity well, which has no gravity. So they just maintain their velocity, I guess.
What would happen? So if I chuck someone straight up, I'm standing in the middle of a 0 gravity. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I grab someone and I throw them straight up. So they go up. How far? We don't know.
So here's the deal. So it's 40-foot tall cylinder.
Right. So they go to what happens when they reach the top of the cylinder?
So in my table, we just work out. We just
because in my mind,
your throw distance.
You have a momentum. I am moving a certain amount of distance. Yep. When I reach the top of the momentum, I still have that momentum, but now I have a downward force of negative 9.8 meters per second squared. So that's going to start applying a negative accelerative force. I'm going to go up, slowing in a straight line parabola, and then I'm going to reach it, and I'm going to start falling back down, accelerating at negative 9.8 meters per second squared. Then when I hit that, I'm still going to have that velocity, but the acceleration will end. And so now I'll be like lazily drifting back down.
But what you do is, as a monk, is you throw them in an angle so they exit the cone.
Okay.
Or the street.
F, because no one should have to do linear algebra in order to know how a spell.
We kind of hand wave the algebra a little bit, but it is godlike.
Right. By the way, in case you were wondering, it's V initial plus T times VT plus 1/2 AT squared. That is the that is your
and lets you, and also let them climb stuff without having to make checks. And they just essentially push off the ground. You're now 40 foot higher.
We are at the level where I can teleport. So I mean, well, let's take it for take. I mean,
there's no group fly.
All right, that's true. See, Brothleth says you'll bounce on it like a trampoline. I don't think that's true, Brothleth.
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
No, he's talking about if you cast 2 in a row, I think.
Oh, gotcha. You know what, Vin? It's our last spell. You've been a great guest. I'm going to let you pick. I won't have any input on this. You get to pick. All right. You get to pick the roll.
I'm going to put this at B as roll.
Okay.
Because
I'm going to make a separate one. You get to have a special Vin.
S as not raw. Oh well, no, A is not raw because you need a party to work around it.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is the special
Vin pick.
This is the special Vin pick. The special Vin pick goes to what? A.
A. Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah. It's because it gets broken when you combine it with gravity. Well, it's just nonsense. It's pretty funny.
And that is our level 6 spells. Pretty good, actually. A lot of A's. That's
what you want from level 6. Like, you want them to be good.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. You're getting that second half of the game, and you've just gone through level 10, so now you're like in the big boy stuff, and I think it's really, really good. But level 6 slow still better than all of them.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Oh, actually, wait. No, I just realized something.
What's that?
Raw, it says, Zero Gravity says creatures.
What do you mean?
I think it only applies to creatures.
The reverse gravity?
No, zero gravity.
Remove gravity in an area. Creatures. So what? Boulders don't float?
I mean, the rest of the text is just about creatures.
But it says you negate gravity's effect in an area. That's the first line text.
Yeah, it does.
So there's
as we know, there's always flavor text.
So there's no gravity. The new
okay. Yeah, okay. Let's just leave it. Let's not open that discussion.
Let's just not open that discussion. Yeah. So how would you rate? Someone had a question. How would you rate level 6 roaring applause? Let's take a look at that. Roaring applause. I mean, we know what it does, but what's it specifically?
Is that? I think it's better.
10 creatures. Yeah, 10 creatures. So it's just like slow. Right. It's will save slow, but with sustained.
Yeah, but it's also I love this for a lot of reasons. It's because it's will save slow with sustained, but it's worth it because of they have to do a manipulate action. And it's 60 foot by default.
Well, it's not a manipulate action. They're just slowed 1.
No, it is.
No. They target applause so vigorously that it cannot use reaction as slowed 1. The applause is so involved that it has to manipulate a trait. It doesn't have to burn an action.
No.
That's what the slowed. That's like what the slowed 1 represents.
Yeah. The slowed 1 is them representing them clapping for 1 action.
Correct. Agreed.
Yeah, but that's to manipulate, so you can AOO it. So that's worth it.
Gotcha.
For the sustain, in my opinion, because essentially free damage from your fighter, which has no map.
Yeah.
Because out of their
So the downside of this is the success is just no reactions, whereas the success for slow is still just slowed 1 for a round, which is still great. And the critical failure, instead of delete them from the VTT, it's they get fascinated with you, which is also kind of mostly useless. But
it's not S. I don't think it's S++, but I think it's S+.
You think it's S+? I agree.
At 6th.
At 6, I agree. I actually agree with that. Yeah. It's very, very powerful. And even with being sustained, you're like, if you're using this against multiple creatures, me giving up 1 action so that they all lose 4 or 5 actions is just great economy. And you would do that all day, every day, which is why slow is even just that much more ridiculous because it just does that without anything.
Yeah, like the fact that slow still slows one for one turn on a success is
right.
ridiculous.
Well, especially in the AoE version, you're like pretty much guaranteed to basically be like, I'm going to use 2 actions in a 6th level spell slot, and I'm going to almost certainly get 4 or 5 actions stolen for my 2 actions. That's like the worst case scenario. More likely, some of you are going to just fail, and I'm going to get 5 or 6 actions out of you individually, plus all your friends. By the time the fight is done, my 2 actions will have eaten up like 15 or more actions from the enemy. You don't get that kind of trade on anything else in the entire game.
Mm-hmm. The other one, I think I looked at your 5th because I wasn't here in Australia at that time.
Right.
For 5th, did you guys have command 5th rated?
Heightened command?
Yeah.
I think we did. We might have just talked about it. I don't know if we rated it.
Right. Because that's similar. That's it's just one of those things you might just have.
Yeah.
And it's great for burning enemy actions. But no, nothing's slow.
Yeah, nothing beats slow. All right, so Finn, thank you.
Mad fun.
This was good.
That was like 3 hours in it.
I'm sorry. It was.
But no, I mean, it just went really quickly. Yeah, just
I mean, these things do happen sometimes. Where's my chat? Where's my chat? There it is. Okay. All right. So, I want to say thank you to Vin for joining us, the self-confessed cynic himself. Vin has been a long time supporter of Knights of Last Call. Pretty close to the beginning, I think, of the Patreon. And that was actually really great. So, we'll just have to make him come on all these now. Obviously, Vin's in Australia, so he doesn't always have this option. But
yeah, these usually are during my work hours. But definitely, there's some other heroes that can.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, this was a great tip goal, and I'm glad everybody voted for that one. So this was a lot of fun. Again, if you are interested in being part of this Knights of Last Call family, this Knights of Last Call community, I definitely encourage you to check out the link below to the Patreon Discord, the Patreon link, which will get you into our Discord, get you into maybe some of our community games or some of our Northern Reaches games, or into our behind the scenes exclusive videos and content. A lot of fun. And again, we do, this whole thing was about Pathfinder 2. But you heard Vin say, he doesn't even consider what he plays to be Pathfinder 2. I think we call it Vin Finder, isn't that what we call it?
Yeah. It's called Pathfinder, but awesome.
It's Pathfinder, but awesome. But if you're interested in learning other games, one of the things that I'm trying to move with this channel is I want to push the boundaries. I want to go to other games. I want to think about what Pathfinder 2 could be. I was talking with Steven from Roll for Combat today, and he said, we need to get Mark on your show. And I said, okay, well, if he comes on my show, I'm going to ask him questions like, what would you do for Pathfinder 3rd edition? How would you fix the fighter issue? Why aren't skill feats exciting? What can we do to make, some of these spells more engaging? And he said, yeah, I think he'd be really up for that. So I like pushing the envelope of game design. It's not in my nature it's not in any of our nature really at Knights of Last Call to look at something and say, this works. So again, we had a crazy, we still have to revisit that we launched an AP and it ate up all of our valuable time, but I do want to go back to group game design. Those were very fun streams. And I still want to try to solve the boss issue in Pathfinder 2. Separate from the tempo issue, which Vin also tried to solve, which is a separate problem. But anyways,
Needham is one. The one little system.
Needham Wolven says, Vin, do you have a list of your changes readily available in some way, perhaps?
Yeah, I was typing a response to that before I realized my keyboard's really fucking loud. No, I'll speak. I'll say it out loud. The answer is we have a house rule document, but a lot of the stuff is actually on the GM side of things. Like, for example, allowing, like what Smith says, he has like your first couple actions count for your initiative. Those are things I haven't put in. I've never written down. It's just like that's how I run the game. So. Yeah. Not really. Not that could really help.
Well, maybe people want to see it. Anthony says, when are we finishing boss design? Yeah. Listen, I basically feel like at some point I'm going to just have to go to a 3rd live stream a week is kind of what it really feels like. Maybe like on the weekends when like everybody can join in and stuff like that. But the problem is our Tuesdays used to be our GM Q&A, but that's when we do our APs now. So that's where we didn't have that time. Brovless says the boss issue. Yeah, it's without going opening up a can of worms.
There's a stream for that. Just
there's a whole stream for that, Brovless. But long story short, individually bosses work, the math works. They're just not very exciting in Pathfinder 2. They have really high armor classes. They have really high attacks. It's kind of it's not very dynamic. It's not very exciting. You want bosses to do different things and fill a different role. And Pathfinder 2, while the bosses might be mechanically challenging, I don't know that they are as dynamic or interesting of fights as maybe they could or should be. So that's true, Anthony. We will be finishing the spell stream soon, so maybe we just move on to something else. That's actually a great point. Although people are like, do all the feats next, and I just that would be painful.
Once a year, maybe.
Yeah. If you thought there were a lot of spells in Pathfinder 2, wait till you see how many feats there are. All right. I am going to wrap that up here. I want to say thanks again to Vin, and I want to say thanks to all of you, anyone who tipped, anyone who participated in the conversation. Remember to like and subscribe if you didn't already do so. Check us out at patreon.com/Knights of Last Call. And we will see you next time, I think, on Knights of Last Call. All right. Peace.